Okay, live. There goes the clock. If you're watching this on replay, you can skip ahead 10 minutes and skip this 10-minute intro. Sound is important to me as much as it sucked on previous broadcasts. That doesn't mean I'm not trying. So I've made a few changes. Instead of just doing a raw audio boost. What's beeping? Who's beeping at me? Instead of doing a raw audio boost, I'm using a compressor and a noise gate, which I didn't think I knew how to use, but apparently I do. So yeah, it should be a fuller sound. It should be less amplified and more full, more like you're listening to the radio. So we'll see how that works. I see there's somebody here and somebody who's here who likes it. I like that you like it. That's fantastic. Okay. So give me a second. Just going to get my ducks in a row here. Check with the chat. Should be a fun show today. Margie 420 got up 3 hours early just for this broadcast. I appreciate the dedication. That's not me. And we got 8 minutes left. Okay, I can enjoy this. Got time for a coffee. Enjoy breakfast. Looking forward to this. We're going to do some Sarah Boone and Lana pop psychology review, which is basically, I've got these AI videos in my algorithm where they're talking about narcissists, and one of them just sounded exactly like what happened to Sarah when Lana went away. So regardless of what you think of Lana, the main reason I'll be playing this is because it looks like something may have gotten through to Sarah based off of these psychologists, not off any direct experience with Sarah, but that breakup may have had more of an effect on her than we give credit for. So that's why we'll be doing that. We'll be touching in on March moniker madness. We're in the final four. We have our final four candidates. Just do a quick scene-by-scene transition. This is me. I'm wearing my Starfleet Academy best overcoat. I've got matching polo set of pajamas. That's how I'm coming to you today. We have news on the bracketology, and that's my graphic for that. And we'll move on to an update. And then we're going to go into the main show. Then we'll come back to me briefly before going into the videos. That's one of them. That's one of them. And that is one of them. Okay, and then this will be the closing shot. Well, those all seem like they're working, so that's a good sign. Let's get back to the audio test in progress. Still haven't logged into the chat either. Pretty good at talking to myself. Why don't you talk to the people who showed up to watch your damn show, Dan? Come on, get it together. Oh, turn off your volume. Nobody needs to hear you twice. They do, they'll just... That didn't work. I see Beth of a Salesman's here. I see Claire in Maine is here. Both in Maine and here. Like Schrodinger's Claire. She's in two places at once. Not completely in Maine, not completely in the chat. Both at once. Welcome, Schrodinger's Claire. I'm switching it to all messages because it's on top. I haven't missed out on anyone this time, but make sure if you're listening that you're watching it on all messages. When you have a room with 10, 12 people, you really don't need people being filtered out. Hey, David D's here in the morning. Welcome. Welcome to the show, David. Got about 5 minutes. People liking the sound. That's good. Okay. Yeah, ideally, this is the best the sound is going to... Well, this is as good as it gets, I think. Using the MacBook mic, I'm no longer tripping the red, so if you have good speakers, I won't sound shitty to you. And if you have shitty speakers, I was listening to... I did a little 3-minute preview that I uploaded in late last night. I was up way too late for doing a morning stream. Anyway, the sound sounds better on there, so it sounds like it should instead of like I've just made it louder. And then when I listened to it back on my iPhone, that normally sounds super quiet, it was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. All right, let's just pin that comment from David D. I don't see you here very often. I'll give you the courtesy of a pin. Got 4 minutes left in the warm-up. Good time to let people show up. It's still early in the morning here. Show off what I've got for medical snacks. These are some peanut butter cookies made by my mom. I'll be dipping those into my large coffee cup. I love my spoiled dog. Also have a little classic orange Kool-Aid. Isn't that a delightfully appetizing artificial flavor? Artificial color. Haven't even gotten to the artificial flavor. That's coming. Oh, so much to look forward to. So much to look forward to. Okay, 4 minutes to go. I'm going to stop talking for a couple of moments and just enjoy the last couple of moments of peace I have. Well, I have more moments of peace coming, but it's always such a big thing ramping up to the show. I feel like I need to talk through the whole intro, and then I'm like, I should have talked less during the intro, so I have something to say at the beginning. How is everyone doing? Five people in the chat. That's a good sign. Healthy crowd for this time of the morning. West Coasters, thank you for getting up early. East Coasters, you guys are lucky. It doesn't matter how early I get up. It's almost like a late sleep in for you, almost a Sarah snooze, as we call it. It's almost 1 a.m. I know! I just lied in bed. Hey, another one to say is here in the morning. Good morning, another one. 3 minutes left to the show. Here I am smoking instead of preparing, but I think I'm prepared. Feels like I'm prepared. Same time, it doesn't. It feels like, yeah, a little bit of, well, at the beginning, I had nothing to lose when I started doing these, when I started going live. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I don't have an audience, so if I suck, I just won't do it, and nobody will remember me a week later. Now I feel like, I don't know, I've got something to prove. I've got people who are depending on a good show. I don't want to be wasting your time. I don't know. It just feels like more pressure these days. Serenity now. Sanity later. All right. We're in our final 2 minutes. We're really going to ramp down to ramp up here. Get my book. Oh, my trusty notes. Maybe I have an announcement I want to read too. Housekeeping. Skip ahead 1 minute and 37 seconds if you're on the replay crew and don't care about these mic checks. Turn on all messages. Our membership update is we're up to 134 members. Thank you to everyone who's bought a membership or gifted memberships. There are no super chats turned on, just memberships. So if 99 cents US is too inexpensive, please gift memberships to other members and help build this community. Anyone who gifts gets a free super chat. Either type free super in all caps, followed by your request, or post a longer request on my community tab for a future show. There is 1 minute remaining until showtime. That was the microphone test. No, you're not late. Another one to say you're one of the early birds. You're early. And yeah, the real show is starting in 30 seconds, so I should stop chatting. Hello, baby. Hello, baby is in the chat, lurking. Still saying hi, though. That's a polite lurker. Hello, baby. All right. 20 seconds. I don't have any special intro or anything, so I can just, okay. Just hello. That's what I'm going to do. 9. Why do birds suddenly appear? That's the question on everyone's mind at this time of the morning. Good morning. It's Friday Mornings with Dan. I'm Dan D. It's Friday Mornings with Dan D. I'm Dan D. I hope you're fine. Got a little bit of coffee here, some medical snacks to keep me sustained during the show. These are peanut butter cookies made by my mom. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for showing up. There's 10 of you here early in the morning. We don't have any Corey Richins to watch today, so got to sleep in a little bit on the Dan D show. We'll talk about Corey Richins just before really getting into the show, but let me just go through what I have planned. Oh, what am I wearing? Let's get to the sartorial choices first. So this is a matching polo pajama set. It's a two-piece. Well, not matching, I guess. Mixed and matched. I've got the plaid leggings here, but the waffle knit shirt, and then I've combined that with a, there we go, a little Captain Kirk. I'm part of the Enterprise. Beam me up, Scotty. Here I am, ready for the morning. So this is the morning wear for today. Monique Wazinga's here. Fantastic. Hello, baby. Doing a lot of chatting for a lurker. That's awesome. I've put away my notes because I got right into my clothing, but I guess you guys can see it. I don't need to show it off. Maybe I can do like, Dan D's wardrobe was provided by Captain Kirk. Polo nightwear in the Walmart cheap section. Anyway, it's a relaxing morning show today. I'll be taking you through Lana's and Sarah's relationship through a lens of pop psychology. I've been getting these AI videos on my feed because of all the narcissist research I've been doing. And I kind of debate whether to bring them to you because it's an AI voice. It feels like an AI script. There's parts of it that are just kind of drony. And at the same time, it kind of woke me up while I was listening to one of these. I like these to fall asleep to because of that. But yeah, I was listening to one and I'm like, God damn if they aren't talking about Sarah and Lana. So you need to substitute the terms Sarah for every time you hear narcissist and substitute Lana for every time you hear empath or super empath. But if you do those two things, we've got some eye-opening things to listen to in the AI chat. So we've got that. We've got to check in on the March moniker madness. If you haven't voted yet, the final four is up. So a lot of you may have voted in the Sweet 16. You're not done yet. Now the top four have each gone on to the final four bracket. We'll do an update right at the end of this, which is the next thing I'm doing. Don't worry, you don't have to wait very long. And yeah, Corey Richins, the defense rests. Corey will not be taking the stand. What do you guys think of that? Personally, I think it was the right choice. I don't think any defendant has ever really been taking the stand has helped. That might be interesting if you know of a case where that happened, where a defendant took the stand and it actually turned the case around. Put it in chat because I think at best it's neutral, where okay, well that didn't hurt us, but yeah, I didn't see any intelligent reason for her to do it. I saw a lot of narcissistic reasons she might, but seems to be a slightly more aware narcissist than our Sarah or Daryl Brooks or others of their ilk. All right. Okay, so that's that. Let's get into the brackets. What's going on with bracketology? Well, bracketology was one member who wanted to change their name to a Sarah Boone themed handle. We enlisted the chat to come up with the best names. The member chose the Sweet 16, and those all went into separate brackets. There was the activities division, there was the interrogation division, there was the friends and enemies division, and why can't I remember the last? I came up with all these. I should remember the last one. The Gimme More division. So And we'll just do a quick update on who won those polls. Kento Sukuroi was the big winner out of the activities division, beating out Puzzled Out, Puzzles and Paint, and What's What, How Many. In the Gimme More division, Gimme Money won a three-way battle between I Just Got Those, If I Could Please, 8 is Not Enough, didn't manage to score a single vote in that three-way battle. So we've got Kento Sukuroi and Give Me Money. Coming out of the Friends and Enemies division, clear winner, Scoundrel Detective, beating out It's Just Lana, Please Darling, and Soft Spoken Conclusion. And finally, this was the most heated division. More votes were placed in this division than any other two divisions combined. So 90 votes in this particular poll. And Know That just beat out No Malicious and Not Compos Mentis. Big Bay Boone was some distance behind, still had 9 votes, but not enough to compete with the front runners. So that means our final four, our final four is Know That, Scoundrel Detective, Give Me Money, and Kento Sukuroi. So if you haven't made your vote on the final four, go to my community tab. You can do that now. I'm just going to be talking about this for the next minute or so won't miss out on anything if you haven't voted. I think I can vote here on this because my streaming software opens up basically like a guest user of YouTube. So I think that I can interact with this. Let's just have a look what the chat says. Basically, you guys like something in the chat, we can get 1 extra vote for it here. I'm leaning towards Kento Sukuroi. I like the way that rolls. It is a little tougher for people in chat to type. But I have seen a Know That in chat before with numbers. So, yeah, that's kind of my criteria for picking what my favorites are. That has to say. Yeah, Beth of a Salesman's having tough time with it. Almost like Sophie's Choice, right? Hey, good morning, Jackie A. Welcome. We're just discussing the March moniker madness. So if you have any input on what you would like to see win, throw that into the chat. I'm really thinking about going with the favorite here and just helping out Kento Sukuroi. I think that's the way we're going. Oh, Kelly's here too. How did I miss Kelly? Jackie Anderson's keeping her. Okay, so that's a good point, Jackie, because your vote is sacred. Just like voting in any major election, you don't need to tell people what your vote is. Your vote is yours. So, yes, if you want to keep it private, by all means. We don't want to get into any political discontent just by making our politics on these name choices any more clear than they need to be. Cowboy Criminology's here in the morning. Welcome. Welcome. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm falling behind here. Trying to pin a comment. I've still got up David D's good morning from the morning, but I'm going to throw Yaz, welcome to the Cowboy. You guys are Cowboy Criminology fans. I'm going to vote Kento Sukuroi. If I can vote him. I can. Sign in? Okay, yeah, no, we're not. I screwed that up. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Because we're basically done that. Go to my page, make sure you vote. The voting will stay open till Sunday night. On Sunday night, I'll do a little, wrap-up video. We'll fake that there was all kinds of action and intrigue on the courts, and that'll be what I do with that. So make sure that you vote if you haven't voted. Tell your friends to vote, and when you start seeing one of those names in chat, say, hey, I helped you pick your name. And yeah, that'll be that. But I think it's time to move into a little pop psychology. And let's just describe how this is going to work. Basically, it's 3 AI videos. They're all a little similar. One is apparently like a Carl Jung voice. Another is Gabor Mate. And a third, I don't know, the dude kind of looks like Jordan Peterson, but it doesn't sound like him at all. Don't worry. It's not a Jordan Peterson AI voice. In any case, they're three fairly similar videos. So part of what I'll be doing is just skipping randomly. We'll do 5-minute chunks of each and maybe skip 5 minutes of each before coming back, because lots of these AI scripts loop, so it kind of gets a little circular anyway. This is more about hearing a concept we're interested in, stopping, talking about it, and then going on to the next one. So the other key thing is, remember, as I was saying in the intro, narcissist always means Sarah, empath always means Lana. Regardless of what you think of Lana, empath isn't conferring that, she's a good person because she cares. Like, empathy is a good trait, but as a psychological construct, I think empaths have just as many, well, not just as many flaws as narcissists, but they're flawed as well. So it's not about whether an empath is good. It's more about whether somebody who tries to play that role, and I guess by extension by a super empath, how they will connect with these narcissists to form a bond that, when it breaks, is kind of nuclear. And that's the fun part, is seeing how Sarah's the result of Sarah being nuclear bombed by a super empath. That makes sense. Anyway, we'll start with the video that got me interested in this topic, because it kind of starts off well from the beginning, and then we will go from there. See, we've got... Yeah. How would you like to wake up to that? Are you talking about me? All right, here we go. Oh, no, probably the Sarah screen. Yeah, that makes more sense. All right, so we will interact with the... Oh, that's... Okay, that's my video. So I have a looping Sarah slideshow, just so we don't forget who we're talking about. Got my text up. I've got my browser window. Interact with it. Play. Oh, and let me know if the video audio is too loud or too quiet compared to mine. I think it's balanced. I'm using the same compressor that I've got on mine with a bit of an output gain. So here we go.
But why the narcissist cannot recover from betraying a super empath? We have to first understand what the super empath actually represented in the...
So we'll pause right there. The first thing is, the video is called Why the Narcissist Can Never Recover Once They've Betrayed the Super Empath. And I think this is speaking, this speaks to Sarah and Lana's relationship. I think once Sarah betrayed Lana, there was still interaction between the two of them, but I feel like that was the tipping point. That's when I think there's a discernible downhill spiral for our Sarah.
Narcissist's psychological economy, and it's far more complex than most people realize. The narcissist, as we know, operates on what's called narcissistic supply, external validation that temporarily fills the void where authentic self-worth should be. But not all supply is created equal. There's a hierarchy, a spectrum of quality that the narcissist intuitively recognizes, even if they can't articulate it. Most people the narcissist encounters offer what we might call surface supply. Admiration for their appearance, their status, their performance. It's transactional, replaceable, ultimately hollow.
This is another distinction that this video made me realize, is the difference between Lana and the documentarians as far as Sarah's opinion of them is concerned. Lana's way more effective compared to them. And I think having a taste of Lana, empathizing for her, admiring her, and then having to deal with the documentarians, who I don't think she ultimately respects, based off of what she got used to with Lana. I think Lana was the gold standard as far as codependent empath goes. And yeah, it'll never get that good again, Sarah.
The narcissist consumes it quickly and needs constant replenishment because it doesn't actually nourish anything real. It's empty calories for a starving psyche. Then there's the super empath, and what they offer is something categorically different. The super empath doesn't just reflect the narcissist's grandiose self-image back to them. They actually see the person underneath the construct. They perceive the wound, the terror, the fragmented self that the narcissist has spent their entire life defending against. And here's what makes this so intoxicating and so dangerous for the narcissist. The The super empath sees all of this and still chooses to stay, still offers compassion, still believes in their capacity for something more. This creates a type of supply the narcissist has likely never experienced before. Validation that feels real because it's coming from someone with genuine depth, authentic perception, and the emotional sophistication to hold paradox.
And that's another thing. Like, the more you read through the tablet messages and any of Lana's writing, it's nuanced, right? As opposed to the documentarians again, which is fairly shallow and surface level, whether they're trying to grift, whether they're trying to, be spies and get the real story. It's all fairly transparent. Lana, liked to tiptoe. When she tried finding out, hey, was it tough for you to, go off of alcohol in jail? I know, I went through it. She tried really hard to kind of, give the hug and like, it's okay. Me and you, we're the same. Sarah wouldn't bite, but I think those kind of moments are the things where Sarah realized that Lana accepted her for who she was and possibly knew her for who she was. And I think there's a letter where she tells the documentarians, you know me like 50%, and that's way more than I let anyone. Because narcissists are so full of themselves, thinking no one can ever understand them. Anyway, we're only a few minutes in, and I've gone a little hard on the commentary.
The super empath can simultaneously see the narcissist's defended false self and their defended true self, and they respond to both with a kind of radical acceptance. For the narcissist, this is like discovering water after a lifetime in the desert. It's not just that the super empath makes them feel good about themselves. It's that the super empath makes them feel real, seen, known. And for someone whose entire psychological structure is built on hiding from being truly known, this is both terrifying and irresistible.
Exactly. So on the one hand, she, oh, I'm a mystery. No one can ever know me. And on the other hand, she's craving being known. She's, nobody understands me. You all are assuming you know me, but you don't. So to have somebody come close is both terrifying and intoxicating, as the script just said.
Super empath also brings something else to the table: intellectual and emotional depth that actually challenges the narcissist. Unlike the typical supply sources, who are easier to manipulate and control, the super empath engages with the narcissist at a level that stimulates them. There are real conversations, moments of genuine connection, exchanges that feel substantive rather than performative. The narcissist becomes addicted to this quality of interaction, in a way that's different from their addiction to regular supply. It's not just about maintaining their grandiose self-image. It's about experiencing something approximating authentic relationship, even if they can fully participate in it reciprocally. But here's the trap. The narcissist cannot actually metabolize this kind of supply in a healthy way. They can't integrate it, can't build on it, can't let it transform them. Instead, they consume it. They take and take from the super empath's depth, using it to feel momentarily whole, but they cannot give back in kind because they don't have access to their own emotional depths. They're drawing from a well they cannot replenish. And this is where the betrayal becomes inevitable. The narcissist's pathology eventually compels them to devalue and destroy the very thing they're most dependent on, perhaps because the intimacy becomes too threatening.
It's just Lana. Ask me if I care.
Perhaps because the super empath begins to require reciprocity. Perhaps because the narcissist's shame at being truly known becomes unbearable. Whatever the trigger, the narcissist sabotages the relationship in ways that are often spectacular in their cruelty. And then they lose it. They lose this unprecedented quality of supply. And here's what they discover in the aftermath: it cannot be replaced. The narcissist might find other sources of validation, other people to manipulate, other relationships to dominate, but they will never again find someone with that particular combination of depth, perception, tolerance, and genuine care.
And that's a really good way of summing up what Lana was to Sarah. Um, probably the deepest person in her life in the last 10 years. In school, we all, just because you go to school with someone, you might be near someone with depth, but um, Yeah, I think she stands out for Sarah. And in the moment, Sarah would have thought, I deserve this. God is sending this to me because, I need this. And I'm such a good person that I'm going to be continuously sent these people. And now, having had experienced it and lost it, I think that she's in a whole nother world. We'll watch a few more minutes of him, and then we'll go to the Carl Jungian guy.
They will never again experience being seen that completely and accepted anyway. They will never again have access to that quality of connection, that level of intellectual and emotional stimulation. They've destroyed something irreplaceable, and on some level they know it. Every subsequent relationship becomes a disappointing echo of what they had and threw away. Every
P&J?
Every new source of supply feels shallow by comparison. They're trying to satisfy a hunger that only one specific type of nourishment could address, and they've permanently cut themselves off from it. You cannot replace someone who saw you completely and loved you anyway, especially once you've proven them right to leave. But the loss of supply, devastating as it is, points to something even more psychologically catastrophic for the narcissist, because what the super empath actually represented was something the narcissist has organized their entire existence around avoiding being truly known. Let me explain what I mean by this.
Okay, I'm going to pause on that. We're going to go to the Carl Jung video. Let me just move to that screen. And take a quick second. Jackie A has something to say in chat. She says, not to bring us too much off topic, but do we have an idea as to why Judge Jackson's ruling still hasn't come out? Folks smarter than I have determined she's past the 180-day mark. So I think this is interesting just to touch on quickly. I have my personal theory. I think, we'll give my theory right away. I think that Judge Jackson has put this off until the last day, her personal deadline. So I don't know if the judges rotate out on cases and, that she has to do this by September before, another judge takes her spot in the circuit. I think because of Sarah's actions and attitude in the case, Judge Jackson just slipped that underneath, get to the window, slipped it underneath the pile. And it's the last thing to come up. It keeps constantly going back under. I think she's just going to make Sarah wait and until, she's not going to pass it off to another judge. But I think that whatever the last day is for her to do it, not only will it be the last day, this is where my prediction will become impressive if it really falls in. It'll be the last day of her docket. And I think in the last half hour, it'll be the last thing she schedules for the day that she does it. So both those things come true. Say Dan D said it. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. And what I've heard from people who also know more than me is that the judges continually,
Night, night.
why is that a hard word? The judges are continually reviewing their caseload for the people who are in the most danger. So if there's a kid that's, in danger from an abusive parent, top of the pile. And, so it's not so much Sarah going to the bottom as more important cases going to the top. And her case is the least important because she's the abusive parent and she's safely incarcerated in Lowell. All right. So there's that. Let's listen to this Carl Jungian voice. We're going to skip ahead a little bit into it, and then that way I'm doing commentary, not just using their videos. It's a weird line because it's AI. I don't think it's technically even copyrightable, but they're putting the effort in to make the videos. I'm not going to just outright steal it. Just borrow a bit and talk about it. And if they want to use my video to put in their video, they can do that. That's cool. I'm reasonable. Fully unreasonable anyway. All right, so let's skip in. You know what'll be interesting too? These videos are all about the same length. If they are borrowing from each other's scripts, this will pick up where the last one left off. Is that a commercial?
Just stress sweating through my third set of scrubs. Totally normal, very healthy. I'm sure it's not a sign of them.
Secret is strong enough for a man, even if it's made for a woman. I've worn Secret before. It's a little feminine smelling, but it's strong.
Emotional unraveling. You need new secret.
But of the narcissist's unresolved suffering. At this stage, The empath's clarity deepens even further. They recognize the cyclical nature of the narcissist's behavior, the idealization, devaluation, and discard, and they begin to understand how each phase corresponds to the narcissist's internal turbulence. The empath sees the narcissist's projection, how the narcissist pushes unwanted emotions outward, depositing blame and shame onto others to escape their own discomfort. The empath sees the emotional void the narcissist carries and how betrayal is not an accident, but a coping mechanism. What makes this shadow revelation so...
That's an interesting thing, too. So it's not, Sarah isn't being mean to Lana because she's mean. Like, she may well be mean. But she's being mean because Lana's come too close. She needs to cut Lana out because Lana makes her realize who she is. And that shatters the illusion. She's built up this image in the mirror. Oh, perfect timing for that picture to come up. But she's built up this image of herself. And if people aren't reflecting what she expects to be seen, then that's a danger to her entire psyche.
Significant is that the super empath does not respond with vengeance or malice. Their strength lies in understanding, not retaliating. The revelation of the shadow empowers the empath to reclaim their emotional autonomy. They withdraw their attention, affection, and acceptance, the very energy the narcissist depends on. They no longer feed the illusion. Instead, they begin to anchor themselves in truth, intuition, and boundaries. As the shadow reveals itself more fully, the empath recognizes that the betrayal was not a reflection of their value, but an inevitable expression of the narcissist's inner turmoil. This understanding marks the beginning of detachment. It marks the beginning of self-restoration. It marks the beginning of the empath's shift.
So this is interesting. This video is a little bit more focused on the empath's role and how the empath, needs to make this symbolic break before the literal break. And that kind of explains Lana continuing to, I think she still made like a $300 deposit just weeks before she died. But those are like, less emotional. Those were just follow throughs. Like, yeah, I'm done with her. And I still question it. Like I couldn't have done that, but I'm also cheap. I don't think I'd give $300 to my brother if he was in jail. I guess it depends on what he did, but it has a sidetrack. But it's interesting. This video is focusing a little bit more on how the empath creates the walls after being betrayed as their own coping mechanism.
From vulnerability to wisdom, from confusion to insight, from emotional entanglement to psychological clarity. When a super empath experiences betrayal, the emotional impact is undeniably profound. But what differentiates a super empath from others is not the depth of the wound. It is the transformation that follows. This transformation is not a surface level shift, not a simple decision to move on, but a kind of inner alchemy. It is the psychological and spiritual process of converting emotional pain into insight, resilience, and ultimately self-mastery. Betrayal becomes a catalyst, triggering an internal metamorphosis that shapes the empath into a stronger, clearer, more empowered version of themselves. The beginning of this alchemy...
Lana at the end did seem like that. At the beginning, in the messages before she was exposed, there's a real mean girlness to her. By the time she's met Tanika, I'm sure, with death hanging over you, you come to terms with a lot of things. And I think despite the fact that her body was physically on its very, literal last legs, I think mentally she was stronger at the end, and you see it in the text to her brother where, there's just an independence to her that glad she was able to experience.
Often feels like darkness. The empath experiences confusion, sadness, and disbelief. Their worldview begins to tremble because they trusted deeply, cared sincerely, and offered compassion generously.
Kelia makes a point in the chat, and I think this is interesting because she says, I think Lana would have reconciled with Sarah. She wrote to P showing how they needed her still. I agree that she was interested in reconciling with her, but I think that the nature of this narcissist empath relationship is that it wasn't that Lana broke away from Sarah. It's that Sarah didn't want to have anything to do with Lana. And Lana had to adapt to that and put up her own walls to protect herself from being rejected by the narcissist who she accepted for who she was. So, Lana is out there saying, I don't care. I accept you how you are. You probably were beaten. You probably were this, making excuses for her. But basically seeing Sarah the way she wanted to be seen for Sarah, and that still wasn't enough for her. And I think the hurt, the rejection from that is what caused Lana to become a little bit more of a more thoughtful person about how to direct her empathy, even though it was too late. And so I agree with you, Kelia, that she probably, if Sarah accepted her, she would have been right back in there. But I think that the way that that relationship dissolved, there was no way Sarah was letting someone who knew her as well as Lana get back into that inner circle. She'd much rather have puppeteer, or, these little puppet admirers underneath her, even if they're useless compared to Lana, which they are.
The betrayal forces them inward into the parts of themselves they usually reserve for healing others. But unlike those who deny their emotions, or suppress their wounds, the empath allows themselves to feel everything. They do not run from the pain. They sit with it, listen to it, and honor what it reveals. This willingness to engage with the emotional experience is the first step of the alchemical process.
All right. I do like Walmart. Walmart has good
source
deals.
d'inspiration quotidienne.
They're terrible for communities,
As the
especially small
empath
ones like mine.
reflects,
But
they begin to recognize the difference between their essence and their expectations. They see how their desire to help, heal, or understand may have invited them to overlook harmful behavior. They acknowledge how their longing for emotional connection may have blinded them to manipulation. This is not self-criticism. It is a deep, honest witnessing of the truth. Such clarity is powerful because it dissolves illusions and replaces them with awareness. Awareness becomes the fire that fuels the alchemical transformation. During this stage,
that's where I feel almost scientific about it, at least as an analogy. It feels like, God, it's probably grade 8 physics, grade 9 physics. I can barely remember it. There's free radical atoms, and they are basically atoms that aren't connected to another atom, so they kind of bounce around in the structures of certain compounds, certain organics. Regardless, oxidization is a process where the free radical connects with another atom, and then the two of them pair up to become something new. I kind of feel like Sarah is this free radical, this dangerous atom, and then pairing up with Lana gave it some structure, some substance, some stability, but it's limited, and eventually it explodes, and when it does, there's no repairing the two. Probably a tortured analogy for anyone that's a scientist, but sounds smart to anyone who isn't.
The empath's emotional body undergoes a form of purification. They start identifying emotions that are genuinely theirs versus emotions that were projected onto them. They notice when guilt was implanted rather than earned. They recognize where shame was absorbed instead of created. They understand how the...
So this is powerful. I see ADJ Farside in here talking, has some personal experience with having to set these boundaries, and how as an empath that's been with a narcissist, you feel bad as the empath for protecting yourself, for doing, the bare minimum to keep yourself from being hurt like that again. And that's, power to you for getting through it. But it's a tough situation to be in, where even when you're taking care of yourself, you feel bad for what you're doing.
The narcissist insecurities, fears, and frustrations were transferred onto them through blame, criticism, or manipulation. As these layers separate, the empath regains ownership of their inner world. They extract what is authentic and release what does not belong to them. The next phase of inner alchemy involves reclaiming personal power.
Okay, we're going to pause that. That was the 5 to 10 minute. These 3 videos, I'm going to put the links in the description, so if any of them you're like, fuck, he keeps stopping it right when I'm getting interested, you can watch these in full. They're about a half hour long, so they're quite good for going to bed, where they're not going to be waking you up after you've fallen asleep, but will help you fall asleep when you're getting there. So we'll go to the 15-minute mark of this third one. And let's see what he sounds like. Right. 15 minutes. 15. Or no, 10 minutes. We just listened to the first 10. Please bear with me. We're experiencing technical difficulties. There we go.
Because they misunderstood or couldn't
I like
handle
this one. The voice is great in this one. Saved it.
and they know that the one person who saw through it completely chose to leave. This creates a kind of psychological scar tissue that never fully healed.
Never mind. So the voice on this one, I think, is good. I think they put, I don't know what you'd call them, like vocal mistakes. They turned up the dial on that because he hangs on words sometimes. Just kind of fun to listen to.
The narcissist might find new supply, might craft new relationships, might even convince themselves they've moved on. But there's always this awareness, often unconscious, that they were once fully known and fully rejected, that someone had complete access to who they actually are and decided that wasn't enough. And perhaps most painfully, the narcissist knows, even if they can never admit it, that the super empath's departure wasn't cruel or vindictive. It was simply the natural consequence of the narcissist's own actions. The empath didn't leave because they misunderstood or couldn't handle the narcissist. They left because they understood completely and chose themselves instead. The narcissist cannot rebuild what the super empath's knowledge dismantled, the illusion that remaining unknown keeps them safe. Let's talk about what happens in the practical, day-to-day reality of the narcissist's life after the super empath leaves. Because beyond the psychological devastation of being known and abandoned, there's something more immediate and visceral. The narcissist must now face the one thing they've spent their entire existence avoiding: themselves. The super empath, you see, wasn't just providing validation or even deep connection. They were functioning as what we might call an emotional regulator for the narcissist's inner chaos. And I want to be very clear about what I mean by this, because it's not the same as codependency or enabling, though it can appear similar on the surface. The narcissist's internal world is fundamentally dysregulated. Without a coherent sense of self, without access to genuine self-worth, without the capacity. Thank you for self-soothing or emotional integration. The narcissist exists in a state of chronic inner instability. They're constantly oscillating between grandiosity and collapse, between rage and emptiness, between the terror of being nothing and the exhausting performance of being everything.
That's a great description of Sarah. Living between the terror of being nothing and the exhaustion of trying to be everything. Wow. The terror of being nothing. And she definitely exhausts herself trying to be everything. I can do 50 things at once and 50 more things. I don't even know what those 50 things are, but yeah, terrified at nothing. She's nothing. Less than nothing.
Most people in the narcissist's life can't handle this level of internal chaos. They're either completely fooled by the grandiose presentation, or they're quickly overwhelmed and retreat. But the super empath has this extraordinary and ultimately self-destructive capacity to hold space for the narcissist's contradictions, to remain calm in the face of their rage, to provide grounding when they're spiraling, to offer a kind of stable presence that the narcissist's own psyche cannot generate. Over time, the narcissist becomes profoundly dependent on this regulatory function. The super empath becomes the container for feelings the narcissist cannot process, the anchor when their sense of self fragments, the mirror that reflects back a coherent identity when their own threatens to dissolve. And because the super empath does this so consistently, so skillfully, the narcissist doesn't even recognize it's happening. They just know that somehow, in this person's presence, they feel more real, more stable, more whole than they do anywhere else. Then the empath leaves, and suddenly, catastrophically, that regulatory function disappears. Now the narcissist is alone with the full force of their internal chaos. All the feelings they never learned to process, all the self-fragmentation they never learned to integrate, all the emptiness they never learned to fill from within. It's all still there, but now there's no one to help them manage it. There's no one to absorb their rage without retaliating, no one to witness their vulnerability without weaponizing it, no one to reflect back a coherent self when they're fracturing. This is different from missing someone. This is different from grief. This is the experience of losing a crucial part of your own psychological functioning, like losing a limb you didn't know you were dependent on until it was gone. And here's what makes this so devastating for the narcissist. They cannot articulate.
Like losing a limb that you didn't know you were dependent on until it was gone. Again, such a perfect sentence to describe Sarah. Like, she's the type of person, and I guess we all take our arms for granted if we have two arms, but she treats people like they're appendages of her own body. And then suddenly, oh, I don't have my left arm. You don't know how hard it is without a left arm. And it's like, you cut off your own left arm.
What they've lost. They don't have the emotional vocabulary or the self-awareness to say, I depended on this person to regulate my nervous system, to contain my projections, to stabilize my sense of self. Instead, they just experience a void.
Again, so the bang on, because there's no way that Sarah's going to have the reflection to realize, like, okay, I'm flawed. Lana was flawed. Together, we, had a symbiosis, homeostasis, where we're able to function in our own lives because we're giving each other something. She has no idea of any of that. She just knows that she feels empty, that she feels like something's gone that she used to have.
An unbearable gnawing absence that nothing seems to fill. So they try to fill it. They find new supply, new relationships.
ADG Farside says, I need to know if she has ever had a moment of, I really messed up. How do people not self-reflect? The closest I've ever seen evidence of her thinking about it, reflecting, was, you killed George, I thought about that. Like, that's one scintilla of remorse. Not even a scintilla. I think there was less than there was of the scintilla of the fingers coming out of the suitcase being the overt act. But yeah, maybe half a scintilla of remorse in her lifetime, at least recorded.
New sources of validation. But here's the problem. No one else has the super empath's unique combination of depth, resilience, perceptiveness, and tolerance. No one else can perform that regulatory function at the same level. The new supply might be attractive, might be successful, might even be kind.
The new supply might be successful, might be kind. So this is, the documentarian sliding in where Lana was slid out. And, oh, darling, all this fake pleasantries. It's because she's trying to replace what Lana was with people who, aren't up to Lana's level. And regardless of what you think of Lana, she was much more effective for Sarah than any of the later Lanas were.
But they lack the emotional sophistication to hold the narcissist's complexity. They're either too shallow to perceive what the narcissist actually needs, or they're too healthy to provide it. They set boundaries.
That's a great one, too. They're either too shallow to understand what the narcissist needs or too healthy to provide it. What a great spot to be in. I want to listen to that one more time. About 15 seconds back here.
Might be successful, might even be kind, but they lack the emotional sophistication to hold the narcissist's complexity. They're either too shallow to perceive what the narcissist actually needs, or they're too healthy to provide it. They set boundaries where the super empath had limitless patience. They retreat where the super empath would have stayed.
And this is where super empath, I think, if it sounds like it's a positive thing and you don't like it being associated with Lana for being, like Superman, super empath, excuse me. The reality is that I think a super empath has gone so far beyond regular empathy that they are empathetic towards totally undeserving people. And that's the attraction for a narcissist. It's like, oh, okay, this one's I can wrap them right around. But yeah, I'm gonna pause him there. We might come back to him exactly at this spot because I like that thought. We're gonna go back to the first video we watched and join him about 15 minutes in now. And you guys seem to be enjoying this in chat. This is some elevated discussion for this time of the morning, but I think we're all going to be a little wiser as we go through our day, starting off with this kind of high concept brain awakening material. So. And if you saw lasers in my window, I just figured out how to do lasers. I can do sharks with frickin' laser beams behind me. So look for that in the future.
For self-soothing, self-reflection, self-compassion. They've outsourced all of that to others, and specifically to the one person who could do it at the level they needed. And now that person is gone. Not just physically absent, but psychologically unavailable in a permanent way. The super empath has closed the door, set the boundary, reclaimed their energy. They're no longer willing to be the narcissist's emotional regulator, their container, their stabilizer. The narcissist is left with the one companion they've spent a lifetime fleeing, their own unintegrated self. And unlike the super empath, that self offers no comfort, no regulation, no relief. Just an echoing emptiness that no amount of new supply can fill, because what's missing is an external validation. It's the one person who could make the narcissist's internal world feel bearable. The cruelest irony is that the narcissist drove away the only person who made them feel less alone with themselves. But there is another dimension to this loss that cuts even deeper, something that strikes at the very heart of the narcissist.
The narcissist threw away the only person that made them feel less alone with themselves. Again, like if you think about, their little giggling in bed on the tablet, like, oh, I can't wait till we're eating ice cream and sitting on the couch together. That mental vacation for Sarah was gold. Like, forget about her forgiveness gold. That was the gold for her, functioning, for being able to get through the days. And I don't think she realized how just even having that fantasy land, that chat with somebody who is going to reflect her vision of herself back to her, and a future where she's a good person, because a lot of people will admire a narcissist in the moment, but they don't have the depth of seeing their flaws combined with, I think I could be on the couch, we could be friends in 20 years. I think most narcissists burn through friendships so quick. Just the idea of having a person who's interested in being in their life 20 years later would have been uplifting for Sarah. And she threw it all away.
Narcissist's carefully constructed self-narrative. Because the super empath wasn't just regulating the narcissist's emotions or providing superior supply. They were serving as living proof of the narcissist's fundamental goodness. Let me explain what I mean.
Oh.
The narcissist lives in a...
The super empath was the fundamental proof of the narcissist's goodness. Yes, because with somebody on the outside like Lana helping her, this justifies everything to her within her surroundings. So now all the people around her, they're beneath her because they don't understand how she's an important person. She's got caring, effective people on the outside. Yes, yes.
perpetual state of what we might call ontological insecurity, a deep uncertainty about their own worth, their own lovability, their own right to exist. Everything they do, all the grandiosity and manipulation, is ultimately an attempt to answer a question they can never quite resolve. Am I fundamentally bad, or am I special? Most of the narcissist relationships don't actually help them answer this question. Casual admirers are too easily fooled. Their validation feels hollow because the narcissist knows they're only seeing the performance. People they've manipulated or dominated can't provide evidence of goodness because the narcissist knows they've coerced that devotion. Even family members who remain loyal often feel like obligations rather than choices. But the super empath? The super empath was different. This was someone of genuine depth, integrity.
So even her family, even Philip, $50 on the wrong card, feels like more of an annoyance. Like, yeah, well, he's supposed to help me. He's my brother, whatever. No appreciation, no depth. But especially, again, she's comparing him to Lana, the super empath, who's reflecting everything she wants to be. So why would she hold her brother in the same esteem when he doesn't hold her in that esteem?
Integrity and emotional sophistication who chose, of their own free will with full awareness, to love the narcissist. Someone who saw past the mask and still stayed. Someone who witnessed the narcissist's worst moments and still offered compassion. Someone whose own character was so clearly good that their presence became evidence that the narcissist must be good too. The narcissist thinks, look at who chose me. Look at the quality of person who saw value in me. Someone this perceptive, this emotionally intelligent, this genuinely loving. They wouldn't stay with someone who was truly bad, would they? The super empath's presence becomes the narcissist's most convincing argument against their own deep-seated belief in their fundamental defectiveness.
Wow. The empath becomes... Rewind that, and I'm going to play some lasers in the background because he's on it. 1902. There.
Good that their presence became evidence that the narcissist must be good too.
Mm-hmm.
The narcissist thinks, look at who chose me. Look at the quality of person who saw value in me. Someone this perceptive, this emotionally intelligent, this genuinely loving. They wouldn't stay with someone who was truly bad, would they? The super empath's presence becomes the narcissist's most convincing argument against their own deep-seated belief in their fundamental defectiveness. This is why narcissists often display their empathic partners like trophies, but with an emotional investment that goes far beyond typical narcissistic showing off. They're not just saying, look how attractive my partner is, or look how accomplished they are. They're saying, look who chose to be with me. This proves I'm worthy of real love. This proves I'm not the monster I secretly fear I am. The super
His ex-wife, she's a monster. I'm not a monster. I have people who care about me. Have you seen how much Lana cares about me? People don't care about monsters like that. So I'm not a monster. You guys are all wrong. I have one person who thinks otherwise.
empath becomes the narcissist's redemption narrative made flesh. As long as this person stays, as long as they continue to love and believe in the narcissist despite everything, the narcissist can maintain the fragile hope that they were capable of genuine connection, that they're worthy of authentic love, that beneath all the pathology there's something redeemable. And then comes the betrayal. The narcissist, driven by their pathology, does exactly what their disorder compels them to do. They devalue, they manipulate, they betray. Perhaps it's infidelity, perhaps it's cruelty, perhaps it's a pattern of disrespect that finally becomes too much. The specific betrayal almost doesn't matter. What matters is that it's bad enough, destructive enough to finally break the super empath's seemingly infinite capacity for understanding. And when the super empath leaves, not in anger or hysteria.
If anyone's seen Mike Myers and So I Married an Axe Murderer, that's how he does his poetry. Unlove, unknowing, doom, 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 Harriet, hard-hearted harbinger of haggis. You are ruthlessly cruel, da 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 da, I da da da, and my cat.
But with the clarity and self-respect that comes from genuine healing. the narcissist's entire redemption narrative collapses. Because this departure carries a message that the narcissist cannot escape. I saw all of you. I understood the wound beneath the behavior. I had compassion for your suffering. I believed in your potential. And after all of that, after truly knowing you, after genuinely loving you, I'm choosing to leave because what you did is unacceptable. Because who you are in practice, regardless of who you might be in theory, is not someone I can continue to love without destroying myself. This is categorically different from other people leaving. When someone leaves who never really knew the narcissist can tell themselves that person just didn't understand. But the super empath understood completely. Their departure isn't a misunderstanding, it's a verdict.
We're going to pause on that one and go back to the other video, but that's a great way to pause too. It's not just that they went their separate ways. It's a verdict, just like Kranich's verdict, like life without Lana, L. Wool. Yeah, life without Lana or parole. Let's go back to video 1. That into the foreground and go to about 20 minutes. Oh, okay, this is good too because this next chapter is called The Collapse of the Narcissist, so I think we'll all enjoy that.
This $10 pen fixed what $1,000 worth of creams couldn't, because this yellow
I hate the nail
crust
fungus
Valuation, unsure.
of all of the ads. That's one, Lamisol with the little monster that comes out from underneath and
Which strategy will restore the dynamic they relied on. Yet none of these tactics produce the desired effect because the empath is no longer operating from illusion. Their clarity becomes a mirror the narcissist cannot avoid. This mirror is what the narcissist fears most. The false self exists to prevent self-awareness, to keep the narcissist from confronting the inner wounds they buried long ago. When the empath stops feeding the illusion, the narcissist is forced to confront the reality they spent years avoiding. They feel exposed, as though the mask they lived behind is no longer sufficient. The collapse intensifies when the narcissist realizes that their usual sources of supply cannot offer the same reinforcement the empath once did.
And this is almost like drugs, right? Like if you think of someone who's addicted to, I don't know, a certain illicit drug, no need to name them and, add to the swearing and murder in my stream. But yeah, if you're addicted to a specific drug and then suddenly your source for that drug is no longer available, you might seek out other sources that have other drugs, and they may give you varying relief from your withdrawal symptoms, but it's not the same. And I think Lana was the drug that Sarah couldn't get enough of. And even when she was like, I don't want Lana, it's the same as her saying, I don't like alcohol. I can't drink. I don't drink. I don't like Lana. I don't need her.
Their sense of superiority becomes unstable. Their entitlement becomes challenged, and their emotional dependence becomes undeniable. As this internal unraveling continues, the narcissist experiences a loss of identity. The false self, designed to protect them, begins functioning like a house of cards in a storm. Every attempt to rebuild it becomes more desperate. They may seek new sources of admiration, attempting to recreate the dynamic with someone else, but the internal collapse follows them. Without the empath's emotional depth and intuitive presence, the narcissist struggles to maintain the illusion of self-importance.
And maintaining and focusing that illusion of self-importance is the most important thing in Sarah's life, but she's no longer able to maintain and focus without her super empath by her side.
They may begin to feel a growing sense of emptiness, restlessness, or even rage. This is not genuine self.
Or all three.
Awareness, but the discomfort of a mask slipping.
Again, I think this is one of the things that woke me up, because we've all wondered about the self-reflection. Like, doesn't she stop to think, oh, not a perfect pause. I forget that the loop is looping whether I pause the video or not. But I got distracted by the picture. They are good pictures. I'll just play it and we'll see if it comes back to me.
Meanwhile, the super empath detachment accelerates the collapse further. The empath's refusal to engage mask slipping. Meanwhile, the super empath detachment accelerates the collapse further. The empath's refusal to engage in the narcissist's emotional games removes the energy the false self thrives on. The narcissist begins to lose the sense of grandiosity that once defined them. They may attempt to provoke reactions to reaffirm their importance, but the empath's grounded presence prevents the narcissist from regaining control. This loss of influence feels like a threat to the narcissist's existence, because without it, their identity begins to erode. Another dimension of the collapse involves the narcissist's increasing confusion about how they are perceived. They are accustomed to shaping narratives, but once the empath sees through them, the narcissist can no longer rely on manipulation to maintain an idealized image. The empath's clarity becomes a force that disrupts the narcissist's internal scripts. They no longer know who they are without the admiration they once extracted. Their sense of self becomes unstable, shifting between inflated self-perception and moments of deep insecurity. The collapse of the false self is not visible to the outside world in the way a breakdown might be. It is an internal implosion marked by a growing inability to sustain the persona they built.
Wow. And that's it. Okay, Lola, I'll take you outside. I'm going to set them up with 5 minutes of video and then I'll take you out. Yeah, that's exactly it. So she does, such an elaborate job of building this persona, and it's all comes crashing down because she knows that people know the real her. And the only defense is to get that person out so you can rebuild what's left of those illusions around you. We're going to go back to this video and we'll go into the 20-minute mark. We'll go, right around here. And I'm going to go take Lola out for a morning pee so you guys just enjoy each other's company with
that evidence. And through their own actions, the narcissist destroyed it. When the person who knew you best decides you're not worth staying for, no amount of new admirers can fill that void. If all of this weren't painful enough for the narcissist, there's another layer to their inability to recover, and this one is particularly excruciating because it plays out in real time, often in ways the narcissist can observe from a distance. The super empath doesn't just leave. They leave and then they heal. They grow. They transform. And they do it visibly, tangibly, in ways that make it impossible for the narcissist to construct a comfortable narrative about the relationship's end. You see, in most of the narcissist's previous relationships, when things ended, the narcissist could maintain a particular story. They fell apart without me. They couldn't handle me. They're stuck in their small life, while I've moved on to bigger and better things. The narcissist gets to be the one who's evolved, who's transcended, who's outgrown the relationship. This narrative is essential for maintaining their grandiose self-image. But with the super empath, this story doesn't hold. Not even close. The super empath leaves and enters what is often the most profound growth period of their life. They finally stop abandoning themselves for someone else. They reclaim the energy they'd been pouring into a bottomless void. They redirect their extraordinary capacity for depth and perception inward, toward their own healing. And the transformation is often dramatic. The narcissist might watch, through social media, through mutual friends, through whatever windows remain, as the super empath begins to thrive in ways they never did during the relationship. Their creativity flourishes, their career advances, they form healthier relationships, They radiate a kind of peace and self-possession that they never had when they were managing the narcissist's chaos. And this visible thriving sends an unmistakable message that the narcissist cannot misinterpret. The problem was the relationship. More specifically, the problem was the narcissist. Because here's what the super empath's growth proves. They were being held back. All that depth, all that capacity, all that emotional intelligence that the narcissist was feeding on, it was being drained away, channeled into the impossible task of trying to love someone who couldn't receive love, trying to heal someone who wouldn't do the work of healing themselves. Once freed from that dynamic, the super empath doesn't collapse or diminish. They expand. They become fully themselves. They step into their potential in ways that were impossible when they were constantly regulating someone else's nervous system, managing someone else's fragility, absorbing someone else's projections. For the narcissist, this is unbearable to witness because it contradicts everything they need to believe. In the narcissist's worldview, they're supposed to be the special one, the evolved one, the one who outgrows others. But here's the super empath, demonstrably outgrowing the narcissist. Not through superiority or one-upmanship, but through the simple act of choosing themselves and doing the work of genuine healing. And unlike the narcissist, who might cycle through relationships and maintain surface-level changes while their core pathology remains untouched, the super empath's transformation is real. It's not a performance. It's not image management. It's actual integration, actual growth, actual evolution. You can see it in how they carry themselves, how they speak about the relationship without bitterness or ongoing entanglement, how they've genuinely moved on rather than just moving to the next distraction. This creates a devastating...
All right, what have I missed? What have I missed? Gonna have to catch up a bit because if you guys all got educated... Now, I've seen these, but at the same time... Oh, it's no good if I just turn it off while I come back, though. Okay, I'll let you play it.
Comparison that the narcissist cannot escape. While the narcissist remains fundamentally unchanged, still cycling through the same patterns with new supply, still trapped in the same defensive structures, still avoiding the same core wound, the super empath has actually transformed. They've used the pain of the relationship.
Okay, perfect. I saw something in the chat that I can come in on now. Jackie A says, we can understand her empath nature while condemning her actions. That's kind of the whole point of this morning video is I found that this was a lot more in the understanding rather than the explaining or the justifying of Lana's actions. And I think that's where the most... Sorry, I'm a little out of breath from running up the stairs after taking the dog out. I think that's where the most disagreement in the community comes when we're evaluating Lana's role in this whole saga. So rather than judging her, this kind of at least gets into the psychology of, you know, what would make a person attracted to a person like Sarah. And I think understanding, you know, some of that that predisposition towards seeking out those personalities is what kind of played against Lana in this scenario, but you know, empaths in general when they get sucked in by narcissists. So it's instructive from a larger point as far as narcissism, empathy, and their relationship goes, but I think particularly instructive on the Sarah-Lana relationship.
Relationship is raw material for genuine development. The narcissist might find new partners, new sources of validation, new stages for their performance. But none of it represents real change. They're running the same program with different actors. And on some level, they know this. They know they're still the same person, still driven by the same fears, still defended by the same mechanisms.
Great point by Ocean Sounds, who says, it talked about how the super empath thrives once they leave the narcissist and how that impacts the narc. And yeah, nothing worse than seeing, like, you know, just think of like any relationship you've had. If the ex does better when they leave you, like, you know, obviously you don't want things, well, depending on how bad it was, you maybe do want them to go bad. But yeah, there's that little tinge of, oh, oh shit, they're doing really well without me. Maybe that speaks to the type of person I am. But yeah, I can think of some high school girlfriends that did a lot better after leaving me, or I left them. But well, regardless, we're not going to debate that now. But we were on a break. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the super empath has become someone new, not because they're superior, but because they did what the narcissist cannot do. They faced themselves honestly. They felt their pain without projecting it onto others. They took responsibility for their part in staying too long, and they committed to genuine healing rather than just managing their image.
And again, this is where I think some of the texts with Lana and her brother point towards Lana doing this kind of emotional healing, even though she, would fall back as well, but at least she was trying. You just saw an effort towards this, reconciling what she did with who Sarah was. So I take that for what it's worth.
This divergence becomes increasingly stark over time. Years might pass, and the narcissist is still essentially the same, perhaps with a different partner who they're treating the same way, perhaps more isolated, perhaps more bitter, but fundamentally unchanged.
Mm-hmm.
The super empath, meanwhile, has continued to evolve, to deepen, to become more integrated and whole. And the narcissist sees this. They see evidence of what's possible when someone actually does the work of healing. They see a living demonstration that transformation is real, that people can change, that there's a way out of the patterns that trap us. But they also see that they're not doing it. That despite all their grandiosity and all their claims of evolution, they remain stagnant while the person they discarded has blossomed. This is perhaps the most painful mirror of all. Not the mirror the super empath held up during the relationship, showing the narcissist who they were, but the mirror they hold up after leaving, showing the narcissist who they could have been if they'd been capable of choosing growth over defense.
I think I'll leave this video on that note because I think that's a huge point too. Every bit of success Lana had after leaving, after the breakup letter with Sarah, would have just been like another knife in the gut, just getting twisted. Like, oh, she thinks she's doing well without me. She doesn't realize how much she loved me. Go back to video 3. On video 3? No, that can't be. What happened? Video 3 didn't become video 2. That's the same guy. What the hell happened? A little confused. Oh, no, it isn't the same guy. Okay, it's the same picture. So somebody's stealing from somebody. Because I move over here. This is the same video, but now this guy's up on that video. Was he always here? I got up too early this morning. I don't know what's going on. Why is this happening? Okay, we're going to go to 27 minutes here and just jump in and see what's happening.
Same program with different actors. And on some level, they know this. They know they're still the same person, still driven by the same fears, still defended by the same mechanisms. Meanwhile, the super empath has become someone new, not because they're superior, but because they did what the narcissist cannot do. They faced themselves honestly. They felt their pain without projecting it onto others. They took responsibility for their part in staying too long, and they committed to genuine healing rather than just managing their image. This divergence becomes increasingly stark over time. Years might pass, and the narcissist is still essentially the same, perhaps with a different partner who they're treating the same way, perhaps more isolated, perhaps more bitter, but fundamentally unchanged. The super empath, meanwhile, has continued to evolve, to deepen, to become more integrated and whole. And the narcissist sees this. They see evidence of what's possible when someone actually does the work of healing. They see a living demonstration that transformation is real, that people can change, that there's a way out of the patterns that trap us. But they also see that they're not doing it. That despite all their grandiosity and all their claims of evolution, they remain stagnant while the person they discarded has blossomed. This is perhaps the most painful mirror of all. Not the mirror the super empath held up during the relationship, showing the narcissist who they were, but the mirror they hold up after leaving, showing the narcissist who they could have been if they'd been capable of choosing growth over defense.
Exactly. Exactly. So the mirror, that's basically the price of admission for a narcissist. Reflect back what I want, you're in the door. What Lana was able to offer was a vision of what she could have been if she went through the difficult um, process of growing and reflecting. It gave her a glimpse, even if it was just a fleeting glimpse of, her as a normal person with friends and a life. And that's, for somebody who can never have those things, knowing about them only makes it worse. So I think that's the challenge. And I figured out what I did. I don't know how, but I have 3 videos in this loop, and somehow when I interacted on one of them, I just moved it over into the scene that we were watching. So I can come back, but we're gonna keep watching Gabor Mate here. Thank you for identifying the photo. And even in the descriptions for these videos, the AI says, not affiliated with Gabor Mate, taking his ideas and whatever. So I think that the scripts come from asking AI, what would Gabor Mate say about a narcissist and an empath? So I think there's still plenty of value to be taken from listening to it, but also with a grain of salt. These aren't Gabor Mate's writings, or obviously not his voice, but definitely themes of his work here, well as Carl Jung and whoever the third guy is. We'll find that out after this video, or after this section.
Vulnerability over grandiosity, authentic change over the PE, are formats of change. The super empath's healing doesn't just represent their own freedom, it represents the narcissist's foreclosed possibility, their road not taken, the life they might have lived if they'd been capable of doing the work. And that's a loss from which the narcissist truly cannot recover. The most devastating proof of your stagnation is watching someone flourish in the space where they once diminished themselves loving you. And now we arrive at what might be the most tragic dimension of this loss, the one that speaks to the deepest form of human devastation. Because the super empath didn't just see who the narcissist was, they saw who the narcissist could become. This is something we need to sit with for a moment because it's fundamentally different from everything else we've discussed. The super empath's perception wasn't limited to the narcissist's current state, the pathology, the defenses, the wounded self hiding beneath the grandiosity. The super empath, with their extraordinary depth and their perhaps naive faith in human potential, could also perceive something else, the person the narcissist
Naive faith in human potential
might be if they chose healing. This vision wasn't delusion. It wasn't the fantasy of someone who couldn't see reality. The super empath saw the reality perfectly. They just also saw the potential. They could hold both truths simultaneously. This is who you are now, and this is who you could become. And more remarkably, they believed in that potential. They believed it enough to stay far longer than they should have. They believed it enough to endure treatment that no one should endure. They believed in the narcissist's capacity for change, even when the narcissist didn't believe in it themselves.
And that's where a space got in between narcissist and a T, and they just went, narcissist T didn't believe it themselves. Little giveaway on the script.
He's in there.
We're going to go back to video 2, but I'm going to try and interact. What did I do? Oh, okay. I think I went to video 3 on this. I hit the replay. Yes. Now if I'm on back one. Sorry. Winners, close for losers. Iogo's not bad, but it's either super big, you get that whole pouch, or little tiny yogurts that are like one spoonful inside each little thing.
Silence of resolution.
This is the guy.
It is the silence of someone standing.
This was the old video too. So let's give him another shot. Anyone know who this guy is? I think he looks a little like Jordan Peterson, but he's more rugged and less whiny kind of voice. Yeah, looks like he's got chops. Anyway, let's listen to him from about 15 minutes in.
They do not have that particular combination of depth and perception and radical acceptance. They cannot hold the narcissist complexity the way the super empath could. They cannot provide that rare quality of connection where the narcissist felt, even if only partially, something approximating real. So the narcissist keeps reaching for something that is no longer available to them. Think about what the super empath was actually doing inside the relationship that the narcissist never recognized while it was happening. The super empath was functioning as what we might call an emotional container. The narcissist's inner world is a place of profound chaos. Without a stable sense of self, without access to genuine self-worth, without the capacity to soothe themselves or integrate difficult emotions, the narcissist exists in a state of perpetual internal turbulence. They are always oscillating between grandiosity and collapse, between rage and emptiness, between the terror of being nothing and the exhausting performance of being everything. Most people cannot survive sustained contact with this level of chaos.
Well, I think it was at least in one of the scripts, but that was that same thing about the exhaustion of trying to be everything, but the terror of realizing you're nothing.
Either get fooled by the performance and never see the chaos at all, or they sense it and retreat. But the super empath is different. The super empath has an extraordinary capacity to remain grounded in the presence of someone else's storm. They do not get swept away. They do not retaliate when the narcissist's rage lands on them. They do not crumble when the narcissist's contempt.
YouTubing makes a comment, says it's interesting that her brother's descriptions of her don't match up with her being an empath at all. I will push back a little on that. Just in doing some research on his Reddit profile when I was first reading the messages, some of the responses to people who, kind of push back at him about Lana's role in the whole thing point to how she was... she always wanted to see the good in people. And I think if you're looking at that from a brother perspective where, you're not judging, you've probably seen a lot of times where she went out of her way to help someone who didn't deserve it. That very well could have been empath or super empath behavior. Just the brother doesn't call it that. But I think there's some evidence if you look at his descriptions of how willing she was to, help others, that may point towards her being susceptible to a relationship with Sarah.
Contempt is directed at them. They absorb it, process it, and somehow remain steady. And without even realizing it,
hey,
the
Michael,
narcissist
welcome.
Becomes profoundly dependent on this steadiness. The super empath becomes the regulator for an emotional system that the narcissist never learned to regulate themselves. This is not codependency in the clinical sense, though it can appear.
Did Michael just join and become a member? Michael, you are our member of the day. Thank you so much. Hold on. Michael has become a member. Welcome to the only level. Woo! Party! Yay! If you want to be a member, it's 99 cents US per month. I can't guarantee 99 cents worth of value, but, I'll get up to like 60 to 70 cents of value. And, some months I'll push it. I'll give you $1.10. You never know. So thank you so much for becoming a member, Michael. I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else who has become a member or gifted a membership. It is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Similar from the outside. This is something more specific. The super empath, through their sustained presence and their extraordinary emotional resilience, becomes a kind of external nervous system for the narcissist. When the narcissist is fracturing, the super empath's calm steadiness pulls them back toward coherence. When the narcissist's sense of self starts to dissolve, the super empath's unwavering presence reflects back something solid. When the chaos inside the narcissist threatens to become visible, to crack the surface of the performance, the super empath is there, absorbing the overflow, preventing the total collapse.
Speaking of super empaths, I am super empathetically, well, no, that's a terrible tie-in. Let's just thank Bedtime Lullaby, JLC, 5 gift memberships, following up on Michael's joining of the only level. So congratulations to YouTubing, Sheila Frizzle, Joe Cal, Choo Choose You, and It's Not Fair, 1977. Great names. Those are some great names, reminding me to make sure you vote in the March Moniker Madness bracket for a member who wants a name just as cool as a lot of those names that just won memberships. Hooray! Thank you so much, Bedtime Lullabies. Bedtime Lullabies was one of my very first members before I even put out a live video, but after I got monetized. So I appreciate that. Sight unseen, she put out the effort. It says this is easily $10 content. Well, thank you. I do my best. I'm trying to do 2 lives a week. They're both on Fridays. My point with those is that you have the weekend to watch them in your own time, or even the week. Then I can kind of relax over my weekends and be fresh and ready to provide more content for you in the next week. Look forward to Cowboy Criminology joining for a Friday the 13th special ramble tonight. Be about 11:30 Eastern Ocala time, so late night, competing with the late night talk shows, but it'll be for you on the live replay.
And then they are gone. And the narcissist is left holding all of that chaos alone. This is the part of the loss that the narcissist will never be able to explain to anyone.
Okay, YouTubing. Sorry to interrupt this guy again, but YouTubing, I think I nailed it. So YouTubing points out that he was shocked that she reached out to Sarah and sent her money because she never lent or gave money, not even to him, thanks for the membership. I think that's where this almost toxic level of empathy, we can see it in Lana. So instead of helping her brother, who, I guess, might have been able to use $100 every now and then, or, something like that, she was probably, helping derelicts on the side of the road, or, buying coffee for people who were sitting outside of the coffee shop all huddled up, or those kind of empathetic gestures, grand gestures, but to, the people that she identified as needing it most, rather than the people in her life that probably would have appreciated it, probably would have been a lot more healthy to give that sort of love and attention to. So I think that's the difference between just healthy empathy and this toxic level of empathy that attracts you to narcissists. So thank you for that comment, YouTube, and I think that helps elucidate where we're going with this morning show.
It is not missing the super empath the way a healthy person misses someone they love. It is more primal than that, more desperate. It is like losing a limb that you did not know was the only thing holding you upright. Suddenly.
So that's same theme that was in another video, but again, you take your limbs, you take them for granted until one is gone and you realize how important it is. You want an example of how you take things for granted, just try not to do anything with your thumbs for an hour. Just fold them in and I don't know, it's not a great use of your time, but it shows how something that you don't think about, the minute it's gone, you're like, oh, that's actually really changes my life. I think for Sarah's level of narcissism, the people, her flying monkeys, were her limbs. And when one was, super effective, like a whole arm, hand and all, like Lana, kind of makes the little pinky fingers of P&J seem like a sad facsimile in comparison.
Every emotion the narcissist has ever outsourced to the super empath comes flooding back with nowhere to go. The rage that the super empath used to absorb now has no container. The shame that the super empath's presence used to quiet now screams in the silence. The emptiness that the super empath's depth used to temporarily fill now gapes open like something with no bottom. And the narcissist discovers something horrifying. They do not know how to be with themselves. They never learned. They have spent their entire life outsourcing.
YouTubing says she never gave money to anyone, not just him. Like notorious for being cheap. So I'll concede that. I don't know any differently on my own, but maybe she made, I don't know, other efforts. As far as Sarah's concerned, money was probably the easiest way to get the foot in the door. And from what I remember with the tablet, wasn't it that she just gave money before communication, and Sarah answered her because she was like, "Oh, you're the one who was putting. Oh, you're my angel. God sent you."
Their inner world to others, using other people as mirrors, containers, regulators, stabilizers, and now the most sophisticated and effective container they ever found is gone, and nothing else comes close. The new supply cannot do what the super impact did. They are not built for it. They do not have the depth, the resilience, the perception,
Morning,
or frankly,
Carolina.
the damage that made the super empath willing to try. So the narcissist keeps searching, keeps consuming, keeps moving from person to person, source to source, performance to performance, looking for someone who can make them feel the way the super impact made them feel, looking for someone who can quiet the chaos the way the super impact. They will not find them because what they are looking for no longer exists for them. The super impact has closed that door, has reclaimed that energy, has redirected every ounce of that extraordinary capacity inward toward their own healing, their own growth, their own becoming. And the narcissist is left knocking on a door that will never open again. Here is section 404, exactly 1,000 words. There is one final dimension to this collapse that cuts deeper than everything else, deeper than the loss of supply, deeper than the loss of emotional regulation, deeper than the verdict of the super impact's departure. It is the dimension that strikes at the very core of what it means to be human. And it is the one the narcissist will carry longest, heaviest, and most silently, because it is the one they are least equipped to process and least able to admit even to themselves. The super empath did not just see who the narcissist was, they saw who the narcissist could have been.
And that's a theme we've seen in both other videos now. Yeah, that's the biggest difference. Is the narcissist expects you to see them as they present themselves. But the super empath's ability to see something beyond that, to see a better future self, is that both terrifying and intoxicating combination to the narcissist that, oh my God, she really knows me. She knows I could be better. She knows if it wasn't for all the cards that are stacked against me that I could be the best person in the world. I'm only like this because everyone just pushes me down. But you know, you understand. Now me and you together, we can save the world. We can do everything now that I have a friend. You got a friend in me.
This is the part that haunts. This is the ghost that follows the narcissist into every quiet moment, every new relationship, every night.
So I'm going to pause on this. We'll go to the other video because I wanted to have a chance to talk about another one to Say's comment. I can't listen to Sarah's journals. The lies enrage me. Yeah, I have no interest in it. Anyone who's been a member of my channel from the beginning knows that the day they were released, I was like, well, I was done at the phone calls. So the journals were an easy no for me. Even the phone calls, I was like, these are iffy. These are questionable. I've warmed up to them to a degree. I can at least appreciate the entertainment value that come from the calls. But I don't appreciate them on a journalistic sense. I don't think that there's anything that you can take from them at face value because you don't know how things have been manipulated. Is there a sentence that's been AI'd to sound like the rest? And, you know, there's cuts, there's parts where the people who are recording it, their voice cuts out, which doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm recording this and recording it into my laptop, there shouldn't be a dropout of my own voice into my recording device. Like, anyway, there's a lot of weird things. But the journals are a whole nother matter because, first off, they're not journals. Journals are a journal. Like, you know, if you are working on a ship and you have your shipman's journal, that's a journal of what happened that day or the day before or the, you know, on your shift. It's not what happened 3 to 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And yeah, so it's not a journal. It's a stupid name for it. At best, call it memoirs, call it an autobiography, unverified. But to call it a journal is a disservice to journals. Even my, shitty high school journals, they have dates, they have times, they have details that I don't remember now. If I went back, it would, oh, that's right. There was the Shoppers Drug Mart that was on 128th and 96th, or, whatever. Yeah, they're not journals. They're not journals. And then the on top of it, so first, you can't verify it. Second, you're putting it out there and they're slanderous. Like, is it slander or libel?
Oh, he's in there. Night.
Both of them they're similar, but one of them is about making I should look it up. Regardless, they're wrong. You shouldn't be saying stuff about somebody else that you can't verify is true. And if it's through a third person and like Sarah, and you think that you have a journalistic right to put it out there because the people want to know, no. You verify it. You go out, so to present it as it is, that pisses me off. So thank you for letting me go off on a rant there. I hate the fucking journals. Let's get back to some peaceful AI voices. Oh, this is a nice background. Yeah.
The narcissist may still appear confident to others, but inside they are losing the psychological scaffolding that held their identity together.
Defamation.
They become increasingly reactive, defensive, or contradictory as the false self crumbles under the pressure.
Slander is spoken, libel is written. Thank you, Cowboy Criminology. Right. And that's why, as a journalist, we were always concerned with libel, but slander is more of slander is probably what's happening with those journals. They're slandering the Torres name as well as his living relatives. Though publishing it, now that's interesting. I wonder, there's such a fine line between YouTube publishing and written word publishing, because before, libel was literally the printed word. If you printed it, there's proof of it. You could say on this date, your newspaper said XYZ. You didn't retract it. You didn't correct it. And that has caused damages to my client. But now, is a YouTube video, is that publishing? So is that a written word because there's closed captionings? Could be libel, could be slander. Maybe it's both.
Of exposure.
It's bad.
This collapse is not caused by the empath's revenge or hostility, but by the empath's awakening. The empath's clarity dissolves the illusion the narcissist depends on, revealing the reality they cannot bear to face. The narcissist's false self collapses because it was never real to begin with, and because the one person who once held up the mirror of their fantasies no longer participates in sustaining the illusion. Projection is one of the narcissist's most consistent psychological strategies, and when directed at a super empath, it can be one of the most damaging.
So that's key. We know that from Sarah, the projection, that's her key weapon. So when Lana was trying to put up her boundaries, then all of a sudden she's accusing Lana of being everything that Sarah herself is.
Until the moment the empath begins to see it for what it truly is. Projection occurs when a narcissist disowns traits they cannot accept within themselves.
My granddaughter loves Sephora.
Don't love any of them. You belong on the inside.
Anger, insecurity, jealousy, selfishness, inadequacy, and assigns those traits to someone else. The super empath becomes the unwilling carrier of the narcissist's unresolved emotions. But after betrayal, something shifts. The empath begins unmasking projection, stripping away the distortions and exposing the truth behind them. The process begins quietly. The empath starts questioning why certain accusations never seemed to match their character, why they were repeatedly blamed for emotions they weren't feeling, intentions they never had, or actions they never took. This questioning marks the first.
I'm going to pause on the narcissist empath and get back to the chat conversation. So Cowboy Criminology points out it's not, and I'm guessing the implied words is slander or libel, if you give an opinion and your opinion doesn't cause harm to the reputation of the individual. Public figures, even private citizens in the news or in court proceedings, may not be able to make a claim. So I think that's the key thing. So it'd be one thing, and we even see some of our colleagues like Hear Me Out, Daniel Chavon, they'll cover the material, but they also will include opinions and commentary so that it's, it's not just them putting out awful material. It's them saying, here's some awful material, here's why it's bullshit. And, that's not going to harm the reputation of the individual. That said, the people who are putting it out and not saying anything, or just saying, well, this is unverified, but here it is, you guys be the judge, that seems a little bit more questionable. That's not, it's not really stating an opinion. It's just saying that these are the things and we have no opinion. And if you don't have an opinion, why are you releasing them? Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Slippery slope indeed.
Break in the projection cycle. Once the empath recognizes the inconsistency between their inner reality and the narcissist's accusations, the illusion loses its power. What once felt confusing now begins to feel revealing. Projection is the narcissist's primary defense.
Cowboy Criminology says he sounds like the beginning of Dragula. Oh, yeah, okay, they have that spoken word intro. That's right. All I could think of when I saw that was dig through the ditches and burn through the witches. But yeah, there is a voice like that at the beginning. Now I need to get into the car and strap on my Dragula.
Against self-awareness. Unable to face their own flaws, they relocate them into the empath. If the narcissist feels insecure, the empath is labeled needy. If the narcissist lies, the empath is accused of dishonesty. If the narcissist feels inadequate, the empath is told they expect too much. Every unwanted emotion becomes a weapon.
And Michael points out that, right, Dan, but the Torres family suffers when they hear that trash. And that's why, personally, I don't cover it. I don't even make my shorts about it. I do some shorts about stuff that's come up in the phone calls and made it into the chats where I like, okay, people are talking about it. It's kind of funny. I'll do that. But I have zero interest in the journals and zero interest in promoting any of the contents of the journals. I think they're so far from anything resembling truth. They've got zero news value. It's, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole, a 40-foot pole, a 100-foot pole, any sized pole that's available for touching those journals. Not me.
Hurled outward to maintain the narcissist's fragile sense of superiority. The empath, with their deep sensitivity and desire for harmony, often absorbs these projections without realizing it. But betrayal awakens a different part of the empath.
Superstition, fear, and
part
jealousy.
That begins to analyze instead of internalize. As the empath reflects, they recognize that many of the qualities they were accused of embodying were the very qualities the narcissist displayed repeatedly. The empath begins to understand projection not as truth, but as confession. Every accusation reveals the narcissist's inner world more than the empath's. This realization becomes a powerful shift in perception.
Well, I've got 30 people here in the chat. If you guys are online tonight, Cowboy Criminology, also in the chat, will be reacting to some Sarah Boone videos that he hasn't seen before. If you're looking at some of the stills here in the montage, some of these are going to... Well, no, those are the body cam videos. So you haven't seen that one either. Anyway, first half of the show, we're going to be talking about his book, Monsters Have Always Lived Among Us. Second half of the show, we're going to be watching trial footage. The one where they're showing all the cell phone videos off of her phone, Cowboy Criminology hasn't seen that and is essentially given the benefit of the doubt to, what he has seen. And so that'll be interesting to kind of share that for the first time. I'm also going to share her sentencing statement. So that should be fun. And maybe even I should call up a video of the unedited version of that same statement. Yeah. Anyway, tune in for that. That'll be happening tonight. If you can't stay up that late, it'll be on the replay, live chat replay enabled. So make sure you stick around for the full Friday night schedule with Dan D.
The empath stops taking ownership of emotions that never belong to them. They stop carrying blame that was never theirs to hold. They stop apologizing for traits they do not possess.
Going to pause again because Jackie Anderson makes a good point in the chat. I missed the pre-conversation, but she says, I agree with either Suma or Tanika, whoever said it, that she didn't actually set out to kill him. She was blackout drunk and passed out. I agree with that. I think that Sarah's clearly an opportunistic killer. She's not like this wasn't a plan. Even if it was in the back of her head of like, oh, that would be a way. She relied on opportunity. I think the other thing that's unique about Sarah is I think she's inherently a really bad person. So a lot of us, when we drink, a guy who, let's say, George known as a ladies' man. I bet when he drank, he would approach more women. He would be a little bit more flirty, be more likely to send a text message to somebody that he thought was cute on the phone, or, leave a heart on somebody's Facebook post. All those kind of things because he's drinking and less inhibited. Sarah, less inhibited, saw a chance to become a torture monster, saw a chance to be like, worse than any, like the movies with Joe Pesci, and the guy he's an Irish guy, he doesn't want a rat, and they've got his head in a vice, he pops out his eye, and he, still doesn't want a rat, and finally he's like, okay, it was Tommy Tucker, and Tommy fucking Tucker, you let me pop your eye out for Tommy fucking Tucker, and then, they take him out. Where am I going with that? I went on a bit of a rampage. The rambles are for the evening. We're looking at 11:30 Eastern Ocala time, ADG far side. That will be 8:30 in the Pacific time zone. Where did I lose myself? I might just have to press play because I think I totally got caught in a rat.
The psychological burden begins to dissolve. Unmasking...
Okay, I remember. Bad person. Bad amygdala. Her whole frontal cortex is fucked. So she gets drunk, and the opportunity to be a torture monster, boom, she's on it. And then she passed out and didn't realize that she acted out on this sick little fantasy. So instead of, like most of us that have our little flaws and might go drinking and, chat up a girl that you don't intend to take home, you're not trying to cheat on your wife, but you might feel a little bit more saucy and like, hey, nice top, whatever. That's the sort of thing that comes out because, you're a little uninhibited. When Sarah's uninhibited, she commits murder, which means she's a bad person and she needs to be where she is. It's a wonder that she didn't cause more trouble before this, if that's her predisposition. But anyone else, like any healthy individual, when you're in that situation, no matter, how fucking drunk you are, when you're conversing with someone who's saying, I can't breathe, let me out. Really, I can't breathe. That should have been a fucking wake-up call of, okay, things have gone bad. But no, not for Sarah. That was like, oh, this is my chance. Let me pull out my phone and fucking record this. I want to remember this for the rest of my life. Well, now you can remember this for the rest of your fucking life. Let's just watch some calming video.
Projection also requires the empath to see the emotional mechanisms behind it. The narcissist uses projection to escape responsibility. By assigning their insecurities to the empath, they avoid confronting them. If they can convince the empath of these distortions, they maintain control over the narrative.
Everyday Inspired starts at Walmart.
Okay, so real quick, Walmart, that's how you do an ad. You know people are trying to skip it. You get all the information in the first 5 seconds. That's how you do an ad. Second ad, no idea what it's for. Fucking wasted your money.
Strategy begins to fail. Their attempts at shifting blame become transparent. Their accusations lose their sting. Their emotional manipulations become ineffective. The empath can finally separate their identity from the narcissist's distortions. This stage of awareness often brings a sense of liberation. The empath realizes that the emotional chaos they experienced in the relationship did not originate within them. The insecurity, the confusion, the self-doubt were seeded by the narcissist's projections. Recognizing this allows the empath to reclaim clarity. They begin to reconnect with their true emotional state, one that is grounded, perceptive, and compassionate. This reconnection strengthens the empath's internal boundaries, making them less susceptible to future manipulation.
And that's a sad thing, that I think this experience very well could have set Lana on a path of actually having some self-reflection, some growth. It's unfortunate that it happened so close to the end of her life, but still good for her to achieve some measure of independence and separation. I'm going to go back to video 2. Where we are here. We're near the end. He's got, we'll give him his last 5 minutes and see where this goes.
Being someone worthy of the love being offered. And the narcissist felt this belief, even if they never acknowledged it, even if they dismissed it, deflected it, weaponized it against the super empath in moments of cruelty. On some level, in some buried chamber of themselves, they felt it. And it was the most terrifying and the most precious thing anyone had ever given them, because it meant that someone looked at the full truth of who they were and still saw a future worth believing in, still saw a human being worth fighting for. But the narcissist could not meet that belief, could not rise to it, could not do the terrifying, necessary, brutal work of facing themselves honestly enough to become the person the super empath saw waiting in the distance. Because that work requires the one thing the narcissist's entire structure is built to avoid. It requires sitting with shame, real shame. Not the brittle reactive shame that explodes outward as rage and contempt, but the deep, quiet, transformative shame of truly seeing yourself clearly and deciding that you want to be better. That you are willing to be broken open in order to be rebuilt into something real. The narcissist chose the armor instead, chose the performance, chose the familiar prison of their pathology over the unknown freedom of genuine healing. And in doing so, they did not just betray the super empath, they betrayed the version of themselves that the super empath believed in. They proved through their own choices that the potential the super empath saw was real but unreachable, not because it did not exist, but because the narcissist refused to reach for it. And now that potential is gone, not destroyed, but foreclosed, locked behind a door that the narcissist sealed themselves and threw away the key to. Because the super empath was the only person who could have walked through that transformation with them.
That's a good point too. So losing that, if there was any hope for Sarah, it would have been, with both of them making growth steps together. And, Sarah would have been still permanently locked up, but maybe, opening her mind to introspection, which we know she's not capable of, but even less capable of without a supportive person on the outside like Lana that would have been willing to, be her cheerleader for every tiny incremental step of improvement. And yeah, losing that has to be that realization that even though she was never going to achieve it on her own, at least it was possible, at least it was a pipe dream. And now she doesn't have that. Just going to get into the chat again, too. There's some very, very interesting conversations going on. Where was the part that I... Okay, so Kelia asked Jackie, do you think that she was actually different before alcoholism and motherhood? People who know her consistently say so. Her pics are so different. And Jackie says, I'm led to believe so. Brian seems to have had his head screwed on straight, and you'd think he'd have to see some goodness in her to marry her and have a son. So this is all pure speculation, but my thinking, it points to how we're not fully developed as children, and it's not until we become young adults that our brains, set and gel. Thankfully for that, because I was a fucking asshole as a teenager, and I needed some growth to kind of mellow into being a well-rounded individual rather than a fucking asshole. But I think that Sarah probably, was just that same kind of clay as a lot of kids, like could have gone a lot of different ways. And for whatever reason, probably got into alcohol and partying too young and affected her brain development to a point where in her, early 20s, probably, almost unnoticeable. But, you start abusing alcohol to the point where it's really doing brain damage and it's consistent. So you're not letting your body repair because you're doing it over and over, which Brian said something about after the pregnancy. So maybe some postpartum depression. Regardless, I think that all snowballed and the gel really set, in the early 30s. And by that point, she was who she was. So I think there's something to be said that she might have been a different person in her youth. Maybe had some of the same tendencies, maybe it was a person that would use a magnifying glass on ants or pull wings off a fly. But, could have adapted to society if not so self-broken.
Person with enough depth to hold the narcissist through the unbearable vulnerability of genuine change. The only person whose belief was grounded enough in reality to survive the process. Without the super empath, the narcissist has no guide through the territory of their own healing. And they know on whatever level they are capable of knowing anything true about themselves, that they are unlikely to ever feel. And another person willing to try. Meanwhile, the super empath is healing. And this is the part the narcissist cannot look away from, even though looking at it destroys them slowly. The super empath does not collapse after leaving. They do not diminish. They do not spiral into the kind of broken, desperate aftermath that would allow the narcissist to construct a comfortable story about how much the super empath needed them. Instead, the super empath does the most devastating thing they could possibly do from the narcissist's perspective. They grow, they flourish. They take all of that extraordinary depth and perception and capacity for love that the narcissist was feeding on, and they redirect it entirely toward themselves.
Thank you, Kelly.
Toward their own healing, toward their own life, toward becoming more fully and freely themselves than they ever could have been while managing the narcissist's chaos. Their creativity returns. Their peace returns. Their sense of self, which the narcissist slowly...
Yeah, Kelia says, I wonder if she suffered a traumatic brain injury or something, but then we would have heard about that ad nauseum. Yeah, I don't think it was a traumatic brain injury. I think it was a series of self-induced brain injuries. You saw that little divot on her head. That couldn't have been any good for her frontal cortex. But yeah, I think she really destroyed herself.
And methodically eroded, comes back stronger.
Thank you, PSR.
Than before. They form healthier connections. They laugh differently. They carry themselves with the particular quiet confidence of someone who survived something that was designed to break them and came out the other side not broken, but clarified, stripped of illusions, clear about who they are and what they will and will not accept, more themselves than ever. And the narcissist watches this through whatever windows remain available to them. And they understand, even if they cannot bear to fully admit it, exactly what this flourishing means. It means the relationship was the problem. It means the narcissist was the weight that was holding the super empath down.
What a huge realization for somebody that, has toxic traits of helping people that don't deserve their help, to realize that the dissatisfaction that you have in your own life that maybe even leads you to wanting to help people because you feel, their pain personally, you realize that actually cutting that is the best thing. What a weight off of your shoulders.
It means that the person they told themselves they were doing a favor by choosing, the person they convinced themselves was lucky to have them, was in fact being quietly diminished by proximity to them, and is now expanding visibly and undeniably in their absence. This is the mirror the narcissist cannot shatter, cannot walk away from, cannot reframe or rewrite or spin into something more comfortable. The super empath's healing is the narcissist's truest judgment, not spoken in anger, not delivered in confrontation, just lived quietly, powerfully, and completely out of the narcissist. And that is why they cannot recover. Not because the loss is too painful, but because the loss is too true.
That is the end of his video. We're getting to the ends of each of these videos, so we're 2 hours into this, so that's a pretty good live. I think 2.5 hours is a pretty good morning. We do have a little bit of wrap up to do after this too, so I think maybe we've got about 20 more minutes in it. If anyone's in the chat that's also a member of other Sarah Boone type content channels, have a look and let me know if there's anyone else streaming. If there's anyone else streaming, I'll try and wrap it up a little quicker so we can send everyone over to their stream. If there's no one else streaming, I'm happy to stick around with you for another 45 minutes or so if there's nobody going. I'm feeling good. I still have all the medical snacks I need. But yeah, we'll listen to the rest of the Gabor Mate video. That going here. Okay, yeah, he's got about 5 minutes left in his video too, so we'll listen to the end of that.
Something better. No one else will believe in them that way again. And here's why, because belief of that caliber requires a specific combination of depth, perception, and radical acceptance that is extraordinarily rare. It requires someone who can see through the defenses without being fooled by them, someone who can perceive potential without being naive about present reality, someone whose own character is solid enough to maintain hope in another person's growth, even while that person actively undermines it. The super empath was that rare combination. And the narcissist destroyed their faith not through a single dramatic betrayal, but through the accumulation of 1,000 smaller ones. Through the consistent choice to protect the false self rather than risk revealing the true self. Through the pattern of hurting the one person who believed in their healing. Through the fundamental refusal to do the terrifying work of genuine transformation. When the super empath finally withdraws their belief, not in anger but in acceptance, they take with them the narcissist's last tether to the possibility of redemption, because everyone else in the narcissist's life either believes in the grandiose false self, which isn't real, or sees only the pathology, which offers no hope. The super empath was the only one who held both truths.
Thank you, Jackie.
I see who you are, and I see who you could be, and I believe you're capable of bridging that gap. After the super empath leaves, the narcissist might encounter other people who believe in them, but that belief will always feel hollow because it's based on incomplete information. New partners might admire the false self, but the narcissist knows they're being fooled. Therapists might maintain hope for their healing, but the narcissist can keep them at arm's length, never truly vulnerable. Friends might stay loyal, but the narcissist knows they don't see the full picture. Only the super empath saw everything and still believed. and the narcissist has permanently forfeited that belief through their own choices.
And that's, again, really key. Like, I think at some base level, Sarah knew that Lana accepted her for everything she was, even for her lies. And on the one hand, that's got to be, like, empowering. And on another hand, like, so frightening that you're that close to shattering my illusion. You're just letting me go through the motions of pretending that I don't drink alcohol. But I think that was a moment where they both knew is it the jig was up or the gig was up? Jig was up? Jig is a dance.
Oh, he's in there.
Gig.
Night, night.
I think it's the gig is up. I think that's when they knew the gig was up. Yeah, it's probably the gig. Anyway, at that point, they both knew each other knew, even though they didn't say it in the texts, the tablet messages. They kind of dance around it from there, and Lana lets Sarah have her, oh, I don't drink, and, how crazy of you to assume that. But the gig is up, the jig is up. You can debate that in chat.
This creates a particular kind of despair that the narcissist may never fully articulate, even to themselves. It's the despair of knowing that someone once saw your best possible self, not as flattery, not as manipulation, but as genuine perception, and you systematically destroyed their faith in your ability to become that self. You proved them wrong about you,
The gig.
but in the worst possible way. You demonstrated that their belief was misplaced not because they misjudged your potential, but because you refused to reach for it. The narcissist is left haunted by a ghost, the person they could have been if they had the courage to meet the super empath's belief with action. That ghost follows them into every subsequent relationship, every new beginning, every moment when they might choose differently but don't, because now they know what's possible. They've seen themselves through eyes that perceived their potential, and they've chosen, again and again, to remain who they are rather than become who they could be. The super empath took with them not just their love, not just their regulatory presence, not just their validation. They took the narcissist's last real chance at believing in their own redemption, because no one else will believe in them with that particular combination of clarity and hope, truth and faith, unflinching perception and unwavering compassion. And the narcissist knows, in whatever capacity they're capable of knowing anything real about themselves, that they deserved that belief and they destroyed it. That someone saw the best in them and they repaid that vision with betrayal.
Is someone seeing the best, the best, the best, the best in you?
That they were offered a path toward healing and they chose pathology instead. When you destroy the faith of the only person who could see both who you are and who you might become, you lose more than their presence. You lose your own possibility.
So that's huge. That's huge. Okay, so that's the end of that video. I think we have a little bit, we can finish with the Carl Jung one, but quickly, AI has an opinion on gig and jig. The correct phrase is, let me say this in the AI voice. The correct phrase is the jig is up, which means a trick, scam, or secret plan, which has been discovered and must stop. The gig is up is common, though technically incorrect, mispronunciation or variation. Jig refers to a trick or dance, while gig refers to a job. So yeah, if your jig, your trick, your dance has been exposed by, I don't know, the people who don't like people doing jigs, then the jig is up. Get the hell out of here. Your song and dance is over, my friend. That's, yeah, Sarah's gig is up. Gig, I just got her wrong right after. The jig is up, Sarah. We are on to you. All right, let's go back to the, so now the Carl Jung video has become, no, okay, yeah. We will go back to Carl Jung. We will give him 5 more minutes, and then we will come back to just chat with the chat.
This is our community.
That's my community, but not yours, so you guys probably don't care.
Gives them purpose and what aligns with their inner truth. This phase often reveals passions, interests, and ambitions that had been dormant. The empath begins to cultivate a life that reflects their authentic nature rather than one centered around maintaining emotional stability for someone else. This rekindling of self-directed energy marks a significant shift in their healing.
Definitely
Emotional healing becomes a central part of this return. The empath allows themselves to process feelings that were previously suppressed: grief, anger, disappointment, and even relief. They recognize that these emotions are not signs of weakness, but pathways to recovery. By acknowledging rather than denying what they endured, the empath frees themselves from the emotional residue of the relationship. Their inner space becomes clearer, making room for self, respect, confidence, and renewed emotional balance. A key aspect of wholeness involves redefining love. The empath begins to understand that love does not require self-erasure or constant forgiveness. They start recognizing the difference between healthy empathy and destructive overextension. They learn that compassion must include boundaries and that loyalty must be reciprocated rather than exploited. This shift in understanding transforms the way they relate to others. They become more discerning, more protective of their energy, and more aligned with relationships that offer mutual respect. As the empath grows, they begin to experience a deeper sense of inner alignment. Their thoughts, emotions, and actions become more coherent. They no longer feel pulled between their desire to nurture and the need to shield themselves. Instead, they operate from a grounded sense of self. This alignment brings a sense of peace that the narcissist's chaos once disrupted. The empath recognizes that their power does not come from fixing others, but from honoring themselves. The return to wholeness also involves seeing their journey.
That's an important message for everyone, just as health. If you want to help people, you need to take care of yourself. If you're not, and it's not being selfish and greedy to take care of yourself, like, eat right, exercise, relax, take a break to, de-stress. If you're not taking care of yourself on a very basic level, you're going to exhaust yourself trying to take care of other people, and then you're not going to have the energy to help them in the way that, you truly could. So if you're a helper, help yourself. You still have plenty of time to help other people. If you're filling your own tank, you're going to have the energy to help the other people who need it. An example of this too is like if you're on the airplane and you've got a child beside you and the oxygen masks come down because there's an emergency. It might feel like the right thing to do to, help the child first, but you're an adult, you know how to put it on. Put yours on so that you can help the child and help the person beside you and, take care of yourself first. You're more likely to be able to help other people after. If you are neglecting yourself as the first order of business, you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to suffer from trying to help people, and you're not helping anyone when you do that.
Journey through a lens of personal meaning. The empath understands that their experience, while painful, has shaped them into someone stronger and more wise. They begin to integrate the lessons learned, not with bitterness, but with clarity. They see how their resilience grew each time they chose understanding over resentment. They recognize how their intuition strengthened with every moment of inner questioning. They appreciate how their self-love deepened when they finally chose themselves. With this renewed self-awareness, the empath develops a more grounded identity. They no longer rely on external validation for emotional stability. They no longer seek to rescue others at the expense of their well-being. They cultivate relationships built on mutual care rather than emotional dependency. Their sense of self becomes rooted in authenticity, not in the distorted reflections created by someone else's insecurities.
Hey, Yalala.
Ultimately, the empath's return to wholeness is a homecoming to their true nature. It is the retrieval of lost strengths, the restoration of internal boundaries, and the reclamation of emotional freedom. It is the realization that their worth was never diminished by the narcissist's inability to value them. It is a quiet, powerful transformation that emerges not from external approval, but from the rediscovery of inner truth.
Relieve your dry
No, my dry skin can stay the way it is. All right, so that was the last of the videos. I will switch to this screen. This is where we'll be for the rest. Oh, you know what? Let's just change the background a little bit here. Get Lola and Cadillac in the background. Have to sit to get them. All right. Okay, that's not bad. There I am. Yeah, so that was the show. I really appreciate everyone who stuck around this long. It should be a fun one on a rewatch, especially as a sleeper rewatch, because I don't scream, I don't use the siren, and all the voices are kind of relaxing. I love the conversations that we got into. There was a lot of on topic, a lot of off topic. So yeah, that was really good. And again, I felt like imposter syndrome when I was launching the stream. Like, anyway, I don't want to self-sabotage too much, but I appreciate you guys for being here, because at the end of the stream, I always feel better. But there's always this moment of trepidation as I'm about to push the button. Like, do I really have something to say? Going to be interesting? Am I going to be funny? Anyway, so I appreciate you for being here. Let me check my notes. What do I have to say about the show tonight? So Derek Judd, Cowboy Criminology, is going to be with me. The first half of the show, we're going to discuss his book, Monsters Have Always Lived Among Us. I guess little monsters, like little bugs and stuff, are living upon us too. It's a Friday the 13th themed episode, so when we're discussing the monsters that have lived among us, the monsters of our modern slasher movies are based off of monsters of reality, and the modern slasher movies are based off of the Penny Dreadfuls of 200 years ago. There's a tradition, a long, like, goes back centuries, millennia of storytelling, but mythology isn't that far from reality, and that's where the conversation will begin tonight. We're going to talk a bit about the Penny Dreadfuls chapter in his book, and then we're going to go into, just a free-form chat. There'll be questions and answers, so anyone who has anything to ask, by all means, put it in the chat. I will be asking mods to kind of help out a little bit with the questions, because I'm going to be very involved with doing the interview. So if I miss a question, what I'd like the mods to do, if there's an interesting question, cut and paste it, and then just keep pasting it every 2 to 3 minutes in the chat if it doesn't get answered, so that we can, as a team, Derek and I can at least address every question that is questioning themes of the book. Then the second half is going to be Sarah Boone. If you've watched my review of Cowboy Criminology's site, and if you look up there, I'm getting like a weather girl now, just above the cat's head is Cowboy Criminology's new logo, looking sharp. If you've watched my watch-alongs of his videos, you can see that he's seen the body cam of the first day she got arrested. He saw the full interrogation. He saw a pro se hearing. And he saw the lawyer number 9, James Owens, and the cavalry swooping in. So that's really all the Sarah Boone coverage, aside from, highlights or whatever might have crossed his feed in shorts. So we'll be showing him trial footage. I'm going to be showing him all of the prosecution, showing the cell phone videos that were on Sarah's phone. So that's going to give Derek a ton more context and understanding Sarah. Be fun for us because we've seen it before, see it again. But to see his reactions to it, I think are going to be fantastic. And we're going to watch the sentencing statement. And if we've all seen the sentencing statement, Derek hasn't. So look forward to that. That's going to be, if anything, I imagine it's, well, yeah, we don't need to imagine. We'll imagine it, but I don't need to tell you what to imagine. You can imagine it. It should be fun. We may have a special guest joining us. I don't want to disclose who that could be, but if we do have that special guest, that's going to be amazing for anyone who's there. So tune in for that. What else? I think I'm also going to pull up the unedited version of the sentencing statement. If we have enough fun watching the sentencing statement, we'll also have fun watching the unedited version. Okay, so that is my notes. Let's get into the chat. We're 2.5 hours in. I saw that nobody else is going until Suma at noon. Or at noon. Hold on, noon what time? Oh, 3 Eastern, noon my time. Okay. Yeah, oh, that'll be 11:30 p.m. Eastern time for the big show tonight. Sorry it's late. Sometimes it just has to be late. I am committed to trying to do 2 shows every Friday. If you can't watch it live, you can't watch it live. I'm going to always have the live replay available. Sometimes it takes YouTube up to 24 hours to sync my live chat replays up with the video. So there's nothing time pressing. I'm not, doing docket watches or anything like that. We're not going to be breaking news on a Judge Jackson judgment or anything like that. So watch it in your own time. But hopefully it's going to be something that can be rewatched and enjoyed. So looking forward to that. All right. Yeah, the sentencing statement. Kintu Sukuroi. Oh, Kel, yeah, no, there's an unedited version. She starts off by saying that this is an edited version. She mailed the unedited version as part of her docket statements, the same way that she was communicating with Judge Kranick before the decision. She sent it afterwards, like, well, if you're going to give me life, I might as well tell you everything. I cut out the stuff about you, but here, now you need to hear it. So I'll probably do a live reading of that in my personal Sarah voice, so that should be fun. Michael says, great show, Dan. Thank you, Michael. Great membership purchase. Thank you for joining the Dan D family. I'll explain a little bit about my memberships. Basically, that's the only way that I have activated monetization. I'm not doing super chats or super stickers because if you want to give more than the membership costs, I would much rather you give that as gift memberships. Help people who can't afford a membership or just, and I'm not trying to dismiss like it's a small membership fee, but some people just can't afford to be putting extras on when you're already, like I've been at that point of my finances where I just didn't have extras. So it didn't matter if it was a cheap extra. If I'm saying yes to every cheap extra, then I can't afford it again. So anyway, if you've got the extra $1, extra $2, whatever, gift a couple memberships. Let some of the people who don't get to be a member have the little green in chat. And, we're all a big family here. There's never going to be members only content. At best, there is member shout out videos. So if you want to see me dancing to S Club 7, that's the most recent member shout out video I did. There ain't no party like an S Club party, I'll tell you that. Do I have a link for tonight? No, Cowboy Criminology. That's the one thing I can't do in my streaming software is pre-schedule a stream. So what I'm starting to do is just release a video beforehand saying what time the stream is. So in that case, this is the video. It'll be 11:30 tonight. I think the more consistent I am with publishing on Fridays, people are just going to start getting used to it and maybe look to my community page to see what time's the morning show or... Oh my goodness. Jackie A has just sent 5 memberships, and I am so thrilled. Let me see. Woo! Oh, that's awesome. Hello, baby. Tam Tam Namaste. Roberta Real. Crazy Cat Lady, and HMB. You have all received gift memberships from Jackie A. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Woo. Yeah, I just found this button today, so I'm overusing it a little bit, but it's fun. And that was in membership was gifted on behalf of A to B. Bedtime Lullabies or Jackie A, if you have anything you want me to say is a free super chat, post it on my community tab. It can be it can be a passage from any Sarah letter. It can be something completely different. Funny thing that came up in the chat, Cowboy Criminology brought up tomato. You guys ever seen the Saturday Night Live skit where Christopher Walken was on and he's supposed to sing the tomato song? So he comes out there and he's like, you say tomato, I say tomato, let's call the whole thing off. Jimmy Fallon runs out. No. Supposed to say tomato. And they look at the cue cards. The cue card just says tomato. So Christopher Walken has a strong argument. But okay, fine. I'll say tomato. You say tomato, I say tomato. Anyway, it's kind of funny, absurd, but wanted to bring that up because I saw it earlier. All right, so we're caught up with the chat. We've got, yes, the Laser Light Show. If you like it, you'll get it again because you're the one who gifted those memberships. Thank you. I think our memberships is almost 150 members, which is amazing for a channel. I'm just barely at 800 subscribers, so thank you. I don't know. That's just blows me away. No, there's no link, Cowboy Criminology. Your link, Cowboy Criminology, Derek, is the same one as we used for our off show. So you can link to that room, and that will eventually be the show link. But no, the live is just we're gonna go live about 10 minutes before 11:30 Eastern. The pre-show, the little audio thing will go up. That'll be a chance for you to connect in the background, Derek, and hopefully we'll be 100%. You can probably come on beforehand too. I'll probably be near my laptop for at least a half hour before the show. So we'll get it figured out. I'm definitely being Canadian. Yeah, I don't have hockey to go to this week. My team is on the road, but next week there is a Friday and Saturday game, so probably going to be another, well, might do it early. I almost always do it before the hockey games because sometimes if our team scores in the first 5 minutes, they do $5 beers for the rest of the night. So if I commit to doing a live stream after and it's a $5 beer night, things could get out of hand. Yeah, Christopher Walken was dancing in it too. Tomato. And he's got like that real smooth weapon of choice. If you've seen the video for that, Fat Boy Slim, he's a great dancer. He's the Fred Astaire of our times. Bedtime Lullabies says Go Pens. Interesting thing about Go Pens. So on Reddit, they don't really talk about me. There's a couple of times I've come up in Reddit, but I'll look it up because I'm a little bit narcissistic. You want to see what people are saying. Anyway, there was a comment a couple of weeks back where somebody was complaining about how YouTubers are just reading Reddit comments, and that felt lazy to the commenter. Most of the people came out in favor, like we're just commenting on what we see on YouTube, so why can't they comment on what we're commenting on? So most people were good about it, but I kind of had a little fun with it. Where was I going to go with that? Oh, the Go Pens. So the person said to another person whose Reddit handle I think is Alternative Pen, and said, he read your comment, but just said great comment, and then started talking about the Penguins. And I bet it's because Bedtime Lullabies brought up the Penguins, and we were just having a little bit of hockey talk and chat. But Alternative Pen thought because he had Pen in his name that, or not even Alternative Pen thinking it. I think it was the commenter suggesting that that's where I went with his name. But no, my commentary would have been about the comment, not about whether he was a Penguins fan. Turns out he's from England, doesn't care about North American sports at all, or she, in any case. Oh, I do care. So Kelly points out that she likes my hair. If you guys have been watching my streams, I'm starting to run out, but this is sort of my Caesar. I've had a different hairstyle every stream. I'm running out of hairstyles. But you know, I was doing just toque and long hair until I cut my hair to be like the Scott Lowen for the reaction to the Scott Lowen or Scott and Chelsea. But I definitely look more like Scott than Chelsea. So I got really short haircut, and the suit and tie. But then each week I've done, I did a mohawk, I did a side, I did a spiky. Anyway, I'm running out of things to do. We'll see what I do next. I do have a plan for tonight, though, so that. Hockey talk. Exactly, Jackie. I didn't see at first, because the heart was covering up the key in the hockey talk. I'm looking at the chat. I thought there was a Hawk Tua comment there. I'm like, Hawk Tua? That's so 2024. All right. I think we're getting pretty close. Fat Boy Slim. Yes. Exactly. Oh, and if you like Weapon of Choice, check out my shorts. I did a Weapon of Choice parody. It's basically just a montage of suitcase advertisements, half of them real, half of them that I used AI to create. And it's Weapon of Choice being played over 50s suitcase advertisements and interspersed with Sarah saying, fuck you. Fuck you. It's because you cheat on me. And this is her weapon of choice. Don't be shocked by the sound of my voice. Fuck you. Got a new weapon. It's a weapon of choice. Suitcase. Holds 100 pounds. Easy close zipper. Anyway, that's how my mind works. It's a little absurd. It's a little bizarre. It's no disrespect to George. It's all about making fun of Sarah and how ridiculous she is. If anyone is feeling sick, sick with a fever, the remedy is more cowbell. Can I do a cowbell sound? I think I can take this sound and... Oh, yeah. Oh, that makes marks, so... Never mind. Don't want to screw up my bell. But we need more cowbell. I like that video for that skit, too, because of the way it makes Will Ferrell... like he's playing the guy from Blue Oyster Cult, and, like... this is his big song. He's got a chance to hit the cowbell. He never gets featured in any songs, and the band's all giving him a hard time. Like, Jesus, Gene, this is our big chance. Work with Bruce Dickinson, famous producer. Gotta tell you, boys, the thing the song is missing is more cowbell. That's all Will Ferrell needs. He just works that cowbell around the room. All right, I'm starting to get a little silly here. This is starting to get a little... well, it's way off topic now, but it's the end of the stream, so people could have left if they wanted to. I guess I should do a closing. Do we need more time to say goodbye in the chat? Make sure you do your bracket update. Go on to the community page. Vote for a new name. Votes are only being taken until Sunday. I'll hit that up again. Yeah, I think this is it. Got the banner up there, Friday the 13th special. I think this is it. I hope you're all fine. I'm Dan D. Together we're fine and dandy. This has been a fine and dandy live stream. I've enjoyed my time with you. I hope you've enjoyed your time with me. I hope you have a fine and dandy afternoon and early evening. Say hi to Suma when you visit her show. I'll probably be getting in a quick nap before my evening show, so I might not be able to appear in the live chat there. Say hi to Lola. No, that's Cadillac. That's Lola. And hope you're all fine. I'm Dan D. This is the end of the live stream. Is it? No, I stop recording.